lifespan is 80. Human is the only one species survive after menopause. And the chimpanzee, gorilla, they have same gene like me and yourself, but their lifespan is 30 years. What makes the difference? Oxidative stress. So a single mitochondria produces 5 million reactive oxygen species in a per second, and that leads to deterioration of cell membrane and resulting aging process. Now it is hypothesis that when human descended from tree, so we started, our muscle mass displaced by fat mass, because the muscle cells has multiple mitochondria, like 80 to 90 mitochondria. Fat mass has relatively lower number of mitochondria. That could be the reason female outlive male. The male with the more muscle mass, lifespan is 5 years shorter. Let's look into nature. All the muscular animals die faster, like tiger, lion, horses. But fatter animals live longer. Right? Because of the oxidative stress. Actually, the muscles produce more reactive oxygen species because there are 80 to 100 mitochondria in a single eukaryotic cells, and each mitochondria produces 5 million reactive oxygen species. So that's the underlying cause of aging process. So the mitochondrial inflammation leads to aging. So we have a better adaptation to counter the mitochondrial metabolic aging process. One of the main factors we live so longer, we produce more uric acid compared with the other primate, like chimpanzee, gorilla, they have lower uric acid. One of the major scavenger of reactive oxygen species is uric acid. So we have better uric acid level than other primates, so our lifespan is, so this is a multiple process actually. Second, gut inflammation contribute to onset of allergy, anxiety, depression, because 50% of brain hormone synthesized in gut and exported to brain. So this has a profound impact on depression, and autoimmune disorders can be attributed to gut inflammation. Visceral fat is a fundamental cause of insulin resistance, and insulin resistance can manifest as type 2 diabetes, hypertriglyceridemia, polycystic ovarian disease, type 2 diabetes. The manifestation of visceral fat inflammation and cellular inflammation, mainly mediated by arachidonic acid. Most of the pharma medicines target FOX pathway. Arachidonic acid converted into prostaglandins. So the non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs are target of cellular inflammation. Endothelial inflammation leads to coronary vascular disease. So these are the major 5 types of inflammation can lead to chronic diseases. So today I would like to give an account about visceral fat and insulin resistance. Just 1 minute.
How important is it to lower your uric acid?
Uric acid? Yeah, I'll tell you, explain that. Yes, sir. So uric acid converted into allourine. And 3 million years ago, our gene got erased. So we cannot convert uric acid into allourine. That's what we have almost double amount of uric acid than other mammalian species.
Do you have a pattern where you can differentiate between the severe, moderate and lower uric acid?
Yeah, uric acid up to 6.5 never cause any harm. But when you
go in terms of food or other things, which is more medium and less.
Yes, we do have a list on.
I could
even visceral fat contribute to.
Everybody is having this stuff.
Yeah.
So we need to know. You can't live without. You can't live without it also.
Yes.
So which is the highest quantity, medium quantity?
You see, the uric acid is related to purine metabolism. Yeah, purine below 50, like the milk, dairy fat, dairy proteins, and eggs are very low in purine. They never, spike this. So the best protein source for.
Yeah, I would just like to help to see how can we differentiate between big, medium, and small.
Yeah, so below 50, 2 proteins are the lowest in purine, like all dairy protein. Whey protein and milk protein is very low in purine. Second is eggs. Eggs protein is below 50. Then medium, 50 to 100. All the pulses are 50 to 100. And nuts are 50 to 100. which clearly underlies that visceral fat is related to manifestation of insulin resistance, and that leads to dysfunctional adipose tissue and can manifest and ectopic fat. There is a 3 type of fat distribution: SAT, subcutaneous adipose tissue; visceral, which is a fat located around the organs and intra-abdominal cavity. Third one is ectopic fat, which is called as intrahepatic fats or fatty liver. So 3 type of fat distribution. Of 3 type of fat distribution, most dangerous is visceral adiposity. Second one, the fatty liver. And SAT protects us from, because wide range of anti-inflammatory adipokines. Hepatos, adipose tissue from the vertex region. It's very good because inflammatory hormones are secreted from SAT, subcutaneous adipose tissue. So 3 type of fat distribution. Ectopic fat, which is a fat inside hepatic cells. It's called as fatty liver. Second is visceral fat in abdominal cavity. Third is SAT, subcutaneous adipose tissue. That's why the female more SAT have 5 to 6 year longer lifespan than men. So it is basically survival of fattest. It is not the survival of fittest. But the important question, where the fat distribute? The fat, that's what in India, the main cause of visceral fat is excess carbohydrate. The excess carbs convert into fat, triglyceride, and store in visceral region. So see in India, South India, I've seen the breakfast, lunch, and dinner mountains of the rice, which activate de novo lipogenesis. And the carbs in the rice and grains are converted into fat and stored in visceral region. That's why the European country, the prevalence of diabetes is extremely low, despite the calorie consumption is same. The calorie intake is same for both the countries, but we develop more of visceral fat with the plasma cholesterol is extremely low level. Yeah, there are different mechanisms. Maybe I can explain to you. Yeah, okay. Yeah, sir, few populations are protected by, like for me, South India, it's all about de novo lipogenesis. Few people have a better protective mechanisms. Maybe you can understand the end of my slides in the same topic. Okay. Okay. So the manifestation of insulin resistance, type 2 diabetes, NAFLD, hypertriglyceridemia, PCOS, obesity, and dyslipidemia. Yeah, so let me explain the main functions of GLUT4. So the fatty acids and diffuse to cytoplasm, but insulin receptor, insulin activate translocation of GLUT4 transporting protein to cell membrane, and insulin resistance leads to impaired GLUT4 translocation, and glucose cannot enter. That's one mechanism. So insulin has got multiple functions. It is not just translocation of GLUT4. Insulin, the main function of insulin is to convert glucose to glycogen. That's one of another function. Second, glucose facilitate de novo lipogenesis by increasing the protein and lipid synthesis. And third function of insulin to inhibit neoglucogenesis. So you can see the GLUT4 translocation and glucose enter to mitochondria. So what happens in insulin? What's the molecular mechanism of insulin resistance? So these slides help you to understand how the visceral insulin resistance. So insulin binds to the receptor, and insulin belongs to a family of hormone called as kinase group, tyrosine kinase. Tyrosine kinase. The main functions of kinase family is to donate phosphate group. Okay. So insulin donate a phosphate group to receptor, which leads to activation of phosphorylation of receptor, activates, that initiate the chain of reaction. Finally, the final target of insulin signaling pathway there are major 4 enzymes, GSK3, glucose convert into glycogen, 60% of glucose convert into glycogens. 20% of glucon convert into ATP, the glucose which is uptaken by cells, and maybe a small fraction convert into protein and lipids. It's called as de novo lipogenesis. And same time, and insulin activate translocation of GLUT4. So there are main 4 functions of insulin activate these 4 main functions. One is conversion of glucose to ATP, conversion of glucose to by glycogen, by GSK3. It activates a gene called as GSK3, which ultimately leads to glycogen synthesis. Insulin activate mTOR, and so the protein and lipids, glucose convert into protein and lipids. We know that 2016 Nobel Prize awarded to Ozumi, who found a pathway to inhibit mTOR. So mTOR activation leads to cell division, protein synthesis, lipid synthesis, cholesterol synthesis, and cell division. So mTOR inhibition leads to a process called as autophagy. You know, what's the main criteria to activate autophagy? 12 hours of fasting. So we need mTOR activation and eventually, slow down the aging process and, it slow down the risk of cancer. So insulin has a profound action on mTOR activation and ATP synthesis, activate GLUT4 translocation, and also it inhibits a gene called as FOXO gene. Gluconeogenesis is suppressed. So the main 4 functions, glucose to glycogen, glucose to ATP, glucose to lipids, and translocation of GLUT4. And same time inhibit FOXO gene, so the neoglucogenesis is arrested. So in type 2 diabetic patient, 60% of plasma glucose derived by neoglucogenesis, not from the diet. 60 to 70% of plasma glucose derived from neoglucogenesis by breaking down of glycogen back to glucose. The lipids break down back into oxygen. That's why it has to be faster by speed. The major trigger, oxygen. Yogi is going to Himalaya. Yeah. If Yogi is going to Himalaya, they reduce the base rate by pranayama, so mTOR was inhibited. And ATP also activates mTOR. Insulin, ATP, oxygen. 3 triggers for mTOR activation. So this will slow down the aging process. Slow down the breathing. Yeah, that's what the animal moves slowly. Like, yeah, the blue whale and, the
doing pranayama.
Slow down the breath rate. Helps to slow down the breath.
Pranayama will also help.
Yeah, pranayama. The living in Himalaya, the oxygen ratio is very low. That's why the naked mole rat, I was really astonished to see the lifespan of naked mole rats. They have same genes like other mice. The mice's maximum lifespan is 2 years. 30, maybe 24 to 36 months. No rats live beyond 36 months. But naked mole rats in the Saharan deserts, lifespan is 36 years. 36 years, naked mole rat. So better model of longevity because they live in the harsh climate of Sahara deserts. They created huge tunnels. So the atmospheric oxygen in the narrow tunnels are around 10 to 12%. In contrast with the 22% in the atmosphere. So low and because it's a desert, lack of food and lack of oxygen activated, inhibited mTOR, lifespan got manipulated too. And one more animal model is, you can say, human fish, which is the fish found in, I forgot the name, human fish of, yeah. This is found in the caves of Croatia, Alps mountain caves. There is this fish inhabiting, So it's a very harsh climate, darkness, lack of food. The food sources are only the feces of bats. There is no other food sources for this fish in the caves, okay? And all these European bats go for hibernation 6 months. So they don't get any bat excreta for 6 months. They consume pudding once or twice in a year. They don't move, they stay in one place, lifespan is 150 years. So this is a two major trigger of mTOR, oxygen, ATP, insulin activator, mTOR pathway, maybe amino acids. Amino acids also activate mTOR pathway. Protein, actually fat suppress that's a great way of, the main benefit of fat.
Fat suppresses them.
Suppress the mTOR
And
activation.
protein activation.
Protein, amino acids.
Animal protein or animal protein?
Yeah, the proteins, basically proteins. It's amino acid, not the protein. The protein cannot enter to plasmid breakdown amino acid. Amino acids activate mTOR, but the glucose stimulate insulin secretion, insulin activate mTOR. So the carbs and protein both activate mTOR. Fat as a protective mechanism on the mTOR inhibition. And definitely the best way to inactivate mTOR, 16-hour restriction of calories. Yeah, so this is a downstream target of insulin mechanism. Now I will explain what is insulin resistance. Actually, insulin is a tyrosine kinase, which means it donates a phosphate group to the rest of the proteins. So insulin donates a phosphate group to the receptor, which results in activation of receptor. And very important point to note down here, there are 3 amino acids in protein can accept phosphate. One is tyrosine, second serine, third threonine, which are the 3 amino acids which can accept phosphate group. Okay, so they are main 2. So insulin is a tyrosine kinase, which means I think the receptor is made up of about 250 amino acids. There are 35 amino acids which can accept the phosphate group. So insulin donate the phosphate group to the tyrosine residue of the receptor. Okay. So what happens? And there is one protein which is protein in cytoplasm called as insulin receptor substrate protein 1. The major criteria for activation of this process, this IRS1 should bind to receptor. Okay, is it clear? So this IRS1, the receptor phosphorylates the tyrosine residue of IRS1. In insulin resistance, it's very simple. Instead of tyrosine residue, serine residue get phosphorylated. That's the mechanism of insulin resistance.
So you have less of tyrosine sediments on the right?
Yeah, no. This is a receptors are made up of 250 amino acids. You know what happens here? There are 2 residue of IRS1. That's right. So IRS1, the tyrosine and serine amino acids. So the insulin donate the phosphate group to tyrosine residue of IRS1, insulin receptor substrate 1,4. That leads to the initiation of insulin signaling pathway. In insulin resistance, the tyrosine phosphorylation are impaired. Instead of this, serine phosphorylation is activated. What happens once the serine phosphorylation is activated? IRS1, which is a protein, cannot make a binding site to receptor. That is a root fundamental cause of insulin resistance pathway. Okay, any clarification here? So now I am going to link how the visceral fat phosphorylate serine. It's very visceral fat produce one TNF alpha. TNF alpha has a receptor on the cell membrane, which enter to cytoplasm, activate an enzyme called as serine kinase. Activated serine kinase phosphorylate serine residue. And tyrosine residue phosphorylation is impaired. That leads to the insulin resistance. That's what the type 2 diabetes is called as diabesity. The result is the cytokine produced from visceral fat, and IRS1, if it is failed to attach to the receptor, it goes to lysosome, moves to lysosome, where IRS1 is degraded to amino acids instead of binding to receptor. Yeah. So this is actually IRS1 phosphorylation due to PIP2. IRS1 donate a phosphate due to PIP2, phosphorinositol biphosphate, which transform into PIP3, phosphoinositol triphosphate. PI3 activate PDI4, which inactivate AKT to active AKT. Active AKT is a transcription factor. Switch on GSK1 genes. So glucose convert into glycogen, glucose convert into lipids and cholesterol, glucose convert into ATP, translocation of GLUT4, and the downstream target is one important gene called as FOXO gene. FOXO gene activation leads to suppression of neoglucogenesis. So this is a mitogenic arm of metabolic arm of insulin, and it has got also one more arm called as mitogenic arm, and important enzymes which has a crucial role in cell division. This pathway is called as MAPK pathway, RAS, RAF, MEK, ERK pathway. Rat sarcomavirus, meteogen activated kinase, extracellular receptor kinase. So major pathway responsible for cell division in eukaryotic cells. So it is like a metabolic switch. RAS is like a metabolic switch. Usually it is switched off, turned off condition. But in healthy conditions, but in a carcinogen, can turn on this RAS. Most of the carcinogen, promote cancer growth by activation of turning on RAS pathway, RAS enzymes. Like for instance, 40% of pancreatic tumor, mutation of RAS protein leads to pancreatic. So what happens? Insulin activate MAPK pathway, so promoting cell division. So these are the two main arms of insulin. One is metabolic arm, and next is mitogenic arm. Metabolic arm is controlled by PAP2, PA3, AKT pathway, and mitogenic arm is controlled by RAS, RAF, MEK, ERK pathway. RAS, RAF. So chronic rise of insulin, hyperinsulinemia, can be a risk factor for cancer as well. It's not just for a metabolic syndrome, it can be a risk factor for by activation of RAS, RAF, MEK pathway. Mitogenic influence of MEK, ERK signaling pathway, RAS pathway. From growth signal in relation to cancer, diabetes, and aging. So inhibition of mTOR, intermittent fasting. So I prescribe intermittent fasting for a PCOD patient. Like we have lots of PCOD patient for rural side of Karnataka, and 80% of the remission in 3 months without any medical intervention. That's
just
what.
by doing what?
Pardon?
Just by doing
Just like fasting.
Intermittent fasting. Yeah, it's basically inhibiting mTOR, responsible for cyst growth, growth in the cyst. So
Someday it causes too much of intermittent fasting causes hormonal imbalance. How do you support that? Too much of intermittent fasting can cause hormonal imbalance.
No, we found that mostly the insulin sensitive cyst, polycystic ovarian disease are absolutely get complete remission just by intermittent fasting.
12.
Yeah. 16, 8. See, I don't compromise with the calories actually. So I usually recommend 11 to 7 in my course, 11 to 8. Like it's around breakfast 11 o'clock, dinner at 8 o'clock. And more of fat in during this period, to activate, inhibit mTOR. A fat rich diet.
But I also feel that for a period of time we should stop and start again. And I found it better. Because continuing doing intermittent fasting.
Especially within females, they say, I don't know how they do, whatever.
The women
differently. Females, yes, they have some tendency of hormonal imbalance with IF, intermittent fasting. How to support it, I don't know.
Okay.
You just ask me.
Yeah, because Vishnu, insulin resistance and see, I think 70% of PCOD cases they have elevated plasma insulin. So that's the criteria to put them on.
Hyperinsulinemia is there any?
Yeah. Not for all PCOD cases, but around 70% of female. Hyperinsulinemia.
So then people don't lose weight after desperate intermittent fasting. What do you do?
Intermittent fasting, sir. Maybe there could be. Pardon?
more stored fat.
Yeah, one more factor is metabolic rate. Metabolic rate also. So they need to combine exercise also later.
Some people do that and that get them also.
Okay. And you see what happens in our walking now. The people with the 120 kg weight, 120, 130, they lose 30, 40 kg. Okay. If someone comes with 70 kg, they lose 5 kg weight with the same protocol.
Also, if they have congenital thyroid disease, then also
Yeah, definitely. Thyroid also slow down the.
Micronutrient deficiency.
Yeah, there are multiple factors. It's very difficult task actually controlling. Our success rate could be 5% of obesity, but if patient come with H. pylori, we have 95% success rate, because they are reluctant to follow for longer time. So the android with the gynoid fat, the android fat distribution, android, because testosterone plays a very important role driving fats to the abdominal cavity. Android fat with the gynoid fat type of obesity. So this is pretty much visceral obesity. Because there is what could be the difference between visceral fat? Why visceral fat is inflammatory and SAT protective? It produces numerous molecules which all are anti-inflammatory. What could be the major difference between visceral and adipose tissue? Because the main problem with the lipids has to store in adipocyte, which is cytoplasm. Fat and water never mix each other. Lipids are, hydrophobic in nature, and cytoplasm is fluid, water. So how to store the fat in adipocyte? What's the main question? So the fats are mainly stored in endoplasm, the leaflet of endoplasmic reticulum, which is hydrophilic in nature. Right? So the leaflets, the fat stored in the endoplasmic reticulum in adipocyte. So once it expands, it causes stress, endoplasmic reticular stress, which is a major trigger for apoptosis and inflammation. So there are inflammation in even subcutaneous adipose tissue because of the nature of fat. Okay? But subcutaneous adipose tissues are designed to store huge amount of fat, unlike visceral adipose tissue. And there is structural and functional properties of deep abdominal subcutaneous tissues association with insulin resistance and cardiovascular risk in men. Subcutaneous and visceral adipose tissue, their relation to the metabolic syndromes. Yeah. So gluteal femoral fat, protection against metabolic syndrome. SAT, subcutaneous adipose tissue. And gynoid fat, in visceral fat in contrast. So main difference between what and SAT. Anatomical difference located in the abdominal cavity, anatomically thigh, buttocks and under skin. SAT. Less number of pre-adipocyte and more number of pre-adipocytes. What is the benefit of it? Cannot differentiate. So example, imagine the house has 10 cupboards and 5 members. We can distribute our clothes to 5 cupboards. And you just imagine 1 cupboard and 10 members. We have to push the clothes inside, So that causes pressure on the nucleus. Nucleus get displaced to corner, which is a trigger for inflammation. The primary trigger for inflammation, because there are lack of pre-adipocytes in them. So pre-adipocytes cannot pre-adipocyte differentiate to adipocytes. So they lack pre-adipocyte. What? But SAT has plenty of pre-adipocyte. Large population of immune cells are found in visceral adipose tissue. Almost 20 times higher number of inflammatory cells are found in visceral adipose tissue. More number of, minimal number of immune cells. Small adipocyte, size is small. The fat adipocyte size is very small. So the deposition of fat leads to a compression, a congestion. And here, the large adipocyte, maybe you can imagine the sac is like a balloon. It can expand further. But what is similar to the rigidity? The body is very rigid, very small in size. So we have or maybe 20, 30 people can accommodate here. So what could be like a bigger. Next. de novo lipogenesis manifests more insulin resistance, more androgen receptors in visceral adipose tissue. That's what male deposit more fat on abdominal cavity, manifest more insulin resistance, more de novo lipogenesis, connected through portal circulation. That's what make a huge difference here. Connected through visceral adipocyte, drain through portal circulation, subcutaneous adipose tissue drain through lymphatic circulation. So all the toxins and inflammatory hormones produced in the visceral adipose tissue quickly deliver to hepatic site. That leads to hepatic sites inflammation as well. So this is also another connected through systemic circulation, connected through portal circulation. Increased lipolysis, decreased lipolysis. Presence of M1 macrophages, presence of M2 macrophages. And hypertrophy. Here because of pre-adiposity it is hyperplasia. Hypertrophy push the nucleus to corner, which is a major trigger for chronic inflammation. And lots of macrophages are accumulated to resolve the chronic inflammation. That's one of the fundamental cause of insulin resistance from the what and so I'll give you the tips of how to reduce the visceral fat as well. Okay. So visceral fat, the size is small. You can see the nucleus is getting pushed to the corner here. You know, yeah, portal drain through portal. Sorry, vat drain through portal circulation, and you know this is through lymphatic circulation and systemic circulation. The metabolic problem of obesity may arise from the ability to become more obese. Obesity associated with the macrophage accumulation in adipose tissue. So visceral fat, subcutaneous fat may be 1 adipocyte, 1 macrophage, 10 adipocyte. But whereas in visceral fat, macrophage ratio is very higher than adipocytes. So these are all macrophages. Adipocyte hypertrophy, hypoxia, pro-inflammatory cytokines and macrophages are secreted. And macrophage secreted factors induce adipocyte inflammation and insulin resistance. Increase adipose tissue expression of tumor necrosis factor alpha in human obesity and insulin resistance. So macrophage in vat produce tumor necrosis factor alpha. And we are seeing and tumor necrosis factor alpha activate serine kinase. Serine kinase leads to serine phosphorylation, which disrupts the insulin signaling pathway. This is a molecular mechanism of insulin resistance and insulin signal, which is driven by adipocyte dysfunction. It's not the beta cell dysfunction.
How to reduce research?
That's that I'm talking. I hope the is quite clear.
Yes.
Any doubts I can.
What's your say on this carnivore diet?
I will come to that one, sir. Yes. Carnivorous diet, it's like basically we need to understand human evolution. We know transition in human dietary pattern, and the grains are latest addition to human diet. Right? So it's not the carnivorous or even I studied about dietary habit of Neanderthal. Neanderthals, the ancestor of Homo sapien Neanderthal, the species, you know. So what happens in German, where the cold climate is and covered by ice, in Western Europe, Neanderthal depending on animal fat. But in the Mediterranean Neanderthal, there is lots of sunlight and plant foods are available. They were taking fat from pine nuts and nuts were the main source. But one thing is sure, both the Neanderthal depends on fat. In Western Europe, they use animal fat. In Mediterranean, they use plant fats. So the fats really protect from visceral fat development. The main medicine to control visceral fat is adding fat. There's a multiple mechanism.
What type of fat?
Good fats, all the good fat. The fatty nuts and so I'm giving
His opinion on carnivore. His opinion on carnivore diet.
That's a good point.
He's giving.
yeah. So is it? I think I step into next slide. So. novel tablet to prevent insulin resistance. So adipose tissue produce hormones, anti-inflammatories are interleukin 4, 10, 12, adiponectin, omentin, apelin. This produced from fat, and fat produced pro-inflammatory. The first hormone secreted from adipocyte discovered in 96, which was the first hormone. So the first hormone secreted from adipose tissue was discovered in 1994, which was leptin. Leptin. Ever since discovery of leptin, 500 hormones are identified, secreted from adipocyte. So adipocytes are the largest organ, endocrine organ, largest endocrine organ. So majority of the hormone from fats are pro-inflammatory naturally. So these are the hormones. Likewise, there are 500 plus hormones identified so far, secreted from adipocyte. Omentin, active parent glucose homeostasis, atheroprotection and anti-inflammatory potential for cardiovascular health and obesity. Leptin protects from inflammation. Breast cancer from molecular, even you see now these hormones are responsible for like cancer epidemic aspect. That could anti-inflammatory adipocyte, omentin, attenuate angiotensin to induce abdominal aortic aneurysm formation, apolipoprotein, knockout visors. See, chimerin. So new hormones, maybe 5 years ago they found, connects fat to arterial contraction. Chimerin is the visceral fat, adipokine, arterial contraction, vasoconstriction, leads to vasoconstriction. That could be the mystery because on my father's paternal side we have a very premature onset of it's like a malignant hypertension. My father was on almost 10 medication, they couldn't control. My dad's 4 sisters suffer from hypertension. With the medication it could be 200, So finally doctors told some mystery. I feel that mystery could be visceral fat. It could be the visceral fat, I suspect today. Because when I, during COVID time, I had a one year free time in my home. I was not traveling. So I strictly followed a low grain diet. 0 grain diet, went to gym for 1 hour, 2 hours every day, evening running. So my visceral fat completely retracted and my blood pressure was stabilized. First time, like from the 20 year, I have a fluctuation. I am following strict low grain diet, salad diet actually, almost a raw diet I am following. But when I travel around exposed to salt, my blood pressure fluctuated. But during that 1 year, there was no fluctuation, irrespective of taking the salt-rich diet. So I suspect that my family, this could be one underlying cause of this mystery behind hypertension.
How many studies are now showing that salt is not bad?
Salt sensitive genes, sir. That's one more question here. The problem with the salt, I'll explain to you personally. Yeah, it's another topic, I don't want to be there. Resistance, expression in relation to obesity and peroxisome prolificator, and the overview of the role of adipokine in cardiometabolic disease with pressure markers. With obesity, leptin control, fat to inflammation, all question and leptin resistance and which all are, leptin resistance, which all are adiponectin and hormone secreted from visceral fat and subcutaneous adipose tissue. Now, let me come to the functions of insulin in hepatic cells, adipocyte and muscles. In muscles, the main function of insulin to convert glucose to glycogen, glucose to fatty acids, and inhibition of gluconeogenesis. Okay. So what happens in insulin resistance condition? The glycogen break into glucose, activation of neoglucogenesis, excess glucose production. So there is excess substrate is available in cytoplasm because of neoglucogenesis in insulin resistance. Excess cytoplasmic glucose convert into triglycerides. Hello. So the glucose so okay. In normal condition, glucose converted into glycogen and fatty acids. In abnormal condition, insulin resistance, glycogen and fatty acids break into glucose by neoglucogenesis. Okay. So similarly, the excess glucose is a substrate for de novo lipogenesis, and glucose converted into triglycerides by de novo lipogenesis. And cholesterol production is activated. And de novo lipogenesis is activated, neoglucogenesis is activated. So neoglucogenesis provides the substrate material for lipogenesis. That is the first step towards. So insulin resistance contribute to more visceral fat accumulation. Visceral fat contribute back to, it's a vicious cycle. The question, which came first, chicken or hen? But both will contribute back to the development visceral fat to insulin resistance to visceral fat adipose tissues. Okay. So this is the mechanism in liver cells. Insulin resistance leads to excess lipid de novo lipogenesis and neoglucogenesis. And in adipocyte, the main function of insulin is to facilitate uptake of free fatty acids from the plasma, convert free fatty acid into triglycerides and store it. That's the main function of insulin in adipocyte. In hepatic cells, conversion of glucose to glycogen, main function of insulin. So what will happen? Free fatty acid is uptaken from plasma, triglycerides is stored in the form of triglycerides, and it inhibits a hormone called as hormone sensitive lipase, which break down triglyceride back into free fatty acids. Okay, so insulin inhibits activity of HSL, hormone sensitive lipase. So it is stored in the form of triglycerides. So in insulin resistance, the triglycerides separate into free fatty acids. Triglycerides, one glycerol and free fatty acids. So they break back into free fatty acids, and the free fatty acid mobilized back to liver cells. So what are the sources of triglyceride in human body? Can anyone say?
Food, sugar.
Food, intestine. Second, de novo lipogenesis. Glucose converted into triglyceride, glucose converted into. Third source is fat stored in adipocyte. So insulin resistance, the fat stored in the adipocytes, they break into free fatty acids. So 60% of plasma fatty acids in insulin resistant patient come from adipocyte, not from diet. In hypertriglyceridemia, majority of the triglycerides are generated from adipocytes, stored fat. It's not from diet or de novo lipogenesis. So elevated triglycerides are the major indicator for insulin resistance, one of the major manifestation of insulin resistance. Yeah. So what happened? In adipocyte, the major characteristics of insulin resistance manifest as increased lipolysis. In hepatic cells, activated neoglucogenesis, and de novo lipogenesis. And in muscle cells reduce the uptake of glucose, and glycogens break into glucose. So this is a so insulin resistance manifests in hepatic cells, adipocyte, and in muscles in a different way. So, because of the extra substrate flux, glucose is a substrate from hepatic cells, Another substrate, availability of substrate from adipocyte, adipocyte lipolysis. So in fatty liver cases, most of the fats derive from adipocyte, not from diet or de novo lipogenesis. That's a fatty acids are insulin resistant, and even free fatty acids are independent risk factor for insulin resistance. It has a different So now let me give you idea about de novo lipogenesis, and we know that glucose is a 6-carbon molecule. Most of the lipids are 18 carbons, like the coconut or the olive oil, or most of the edible lipids belongs to category of 18 carbon. Palmitic acid 16 carbon. Cholesterol is made up of 27 carbon. Glucose break into acetate coenzyme. So a single glucose can break into 2 acetate coenzyme. One acetate coenzyme yield 12 ATP. So glucose can provide 24 ATP, and stearic acid in contrast, it can split into 9 acetate coenzyme yielding 100 ATP. So it's an important step is the stearic acid or palmitic acid or glucose, they should transform to acetate coenzyme before entering to mitochondria. That's the first step. Okay. The cholesterol cannot split into acetate coenzyme. That's why there is only one way to flush out cholesterol from body, converting cholesterol to bile acids. 5% of cholesterol used for phospholipids, the cell membrane, cortisol, vitamin D, maybe aldosterone, or estrogen and testosterone. Only 5% of cholesterol utilized for synthesizing the hormones. 95% of the cholesterol, because this is the one molecule, cannot convert into ATP energy. So it has to flush out from the body through anal route. You cannot reduce cholesterol by running or jogging or physical activities, because you cannot process in mitochondria. You cannot convert into ATP. So the best route is anal route. Cholesterol convert into bile acid. Bile acid is secreted to intestine. 95% is reabsorbed. 5% goes into stools. This is the cholesterol homeostasis is maintained. But there is a trick to increase fecal excretion of bile salt. Add soluble fiber. Soluble fiber trap the bile salt and enhance the fecal excretion, leading to reduction in the plasma cholesterol. So the glucose convert into acetyl coenzyme, acetic coenzymes, and used for the elongation of fatty acids. This is a basically de novo lipogenesis. So for this fatty acid synthesis, the carbon derived from glucose. So 90% of lipids and cholesterols are synthesized by this pathway. Okay. So glucose to acetate coenzyme to fatty acids, and this process of conversion of glucose to fatty acid, de novo lipogenesis, is regulated by 2 important transcriptional factors called as ChREBP and SREBP, sterol response element binding protein, and carbohydrate response element binding protein, which are the major transcriptional factor determine whether glucose should convert to ATP or convert into lipids. These are 2 important transcriptional factors. Okay. So activation of these 2 transcriptional factors leads to de novo lipogenesis. So insulin directly activates these 2 transcriptional factors, converting glucose to fat. Glucose to fat. This is the main mechanism. So example. Yeah. So this is the major pathway of the de novo lipogenesis. Maybe glucose split into 3-carbon pyruvate. Pyruvate enter to mitochondria. So there is 2 final destiny. Either it can go to electron transport chain, acetate coenzyme can enter to. Otherwise, acetate coenzyme is pumped out from mitochondria for de novo lipogenesis. So this is a 2-carbon acetate coenzyme cannot transport it to cytoplasm. So it elongate to 6-carbon acetate coenzyme combined to malonyl coenzyme, which is a 4-carbon molecule. So 2-carbon acetate coenzyme combined to malonyl coenzyme to generate citrate. Citrate is transported to outside mitochondria, where one enzyme ACL again converts citrate back to acetate coenzyme. Acetate coenzyme combined with the malonyl coenzyme to form 4-carbon malonyl coenzyme, and malonyl coenzyme has 4 carbon chains, which combine to form 16-carbon palmitic acids. So see how the glucose converted into fat, palmitic acids. And most of this ACL by suppressor are a drug used to reduce hypertriglyceridemia, to treat the dyslipidemia. I tell the name of, and
What's the name?
just dipromic, I'll tell you, I'll let you know the name of it. Yeah. Yeah, I think, this is ACL by inhibitor actually. So most of the lipid lowering drugs are targeted of this pathway. Most of the lipid lowering drugs, cholesterol, because the acetate coenzyme convert into mevalonate by HMG coenzyme reductase inhibitor is statin. So statin inhibit, and the 2-carbon acetate coenzyme elongate to 27-carbon cholesterol. And 4th step is blocked by statin. Then acetate coenzyme to malonyl coenzyme, 2-carbon to 4-carbon by acetate coenzyme enzyme carboxylase inhibitor. So acetate coenzyme enzyme carboxylase convert acetate coenzyme to malonyl coenzyme, which is the 4-carbon molecule. So 4-carbon malonyl coenzymes combine together to form 16-carbon palmitic acids. And 16-carbon palmitic acid can later transform into different type of fatty acids. Okay? So this is and this pathway is controlled by 2 transcriptional factors called as SREBP and CHREBP, carbohydrate response element binding protein, a transcriptional factor. So to put in a simple words, first chapati goes to mitochondria to ATP generation. Second chapati activate SREBP and CHREBP, so it converts into triglycerides. So excess carb is the culprit here. I'm not saying to restriction of carbs, So glycemic load activate these important transcriptional factors by activating insulin. Insulin spike leads to activation of this transcriptional factor, which facilitate glucose to conversion of palmitic acid and glucose to conversion of cholesterol. Can I move to next slide?
One important thing. I am not asking you to reduce carbohydrates. Then
To reduce the glycemic load.
you only those things which have a low.
No, I have a simple trick like it. I'll ask my patients to take small quantity of rice, more vegetable. I'm making, fried rice, vegetable fried rice, adding lots of fat to it. Fat suppress so many. Fat produces the insulin. So ask them to put paneer, nuts, ghee, frying the vegetable. This is a combination I give to the patient. So I ask them to add like groundnut flour and wheat flour to mix chapati, rotis. So the glycemic load is reduced with the lots of vegetable, a yogurt, and we have a different dietary photo targeting this pathway.
You're saying groundnut flour.
Groundnut flour. For rich people, I recommend almond flour because our patients are like a lower middle class and So we developed a 2 meal plan. One is for normal ordinary people, one is for
What is the flour that you recommend?
flour. Yeah, so one simple trick, simple step to reduce the glycemic, like insulin action, cool down starch quickly in refrigerator. Hot rice, keep in refrigerator for half an hour. So this, rapid drop in the temperature transform starch in the rice amylase to a type of resistant starch. This
potato.
Potato. So this process is called as retrogression of starch. Starch retrogression, you know. So starches of maybe wheat or in, there is two types of amylose and amylopectin. So what happens? This process of starch retrogression reduce the excess of digestive enzymes. So 40% to 50% of the glucose goes in this tube. It cannot get absorbed. That's one great way to. I recommend this pathway too. So what I understood from my practice, the major trigger for chronic disease is not the cholesterol or fat or maybe other stress. It is high glycemic load. The glycemic load. That's what in India with the highest number of metabolic syndrome, because of our high glycemic load is very high. Like around 500 grams of grains are consumed from out of 2000.
What flour do you recommend?
Which one, sir?
What flour should they have?
For I'm coming to diet protocol, sir. After this, I'm stepping into diet protocol. So what happens? It's very simple. Insulin enhanced SREBP and CHREBP, carbohydrate response element binding protein, and steroid response element binding protein, and leads to the low glycemic load inhibits CHREBP, preventing de novo lipogenesis and insulin spike. Carboxylase inhibitor for treatment of NASH. Yeah, so this molecule, this is a second step in the de novo lipogenesis. Treatment of dyslipidemia. Yes. Investigation liver diet to acetate consane carboxylase. So this process, the natural remedy is reducing glycemic load. Reducing the glycemic load.
Sorry. You see acetyl coenzyme carboxylase inhibitor.
Yeah.
Used
Inhibitor.
for treatment of NASH.
It's a pharmacological drug used for treatment. Yeah. So I'm talking that this highlight the relevance of this pathway. Yeah. This pathway is very relevant for fatty liver, progression of fatty liver and progression of dyslipidemia. So these are the pharmacological agents that inhibit acetate coenzyme enzyme carboxylase, ACL by and HMG coenzyme reductase inhibitor, statin. So most of the pharmacological drugs to lower the lipids and to treat the dyslipidemia are target of this particular pathway. So what I mean to say, this pathway can be controlled by reducing carbohydrate. Very simple. That's all. Very simple. You can control by reducing the glycemic load.
So ACC inhibitor will also reduce insulin resistance.
ACC inhibitor may be reduce the visceral fat. Once the visceral fat is reduced, that leads to indirectly it may be helpful in this pathway.
So bempedoic is ACC inhibitor.
Yeah.
How long can you continue not eating carbs?
Pardon, sir?
How long can someone continue to not eat carbs?
Yeah.
How long? I mean, carbohydrates are needed.
Yeah. See, the carbs are glucose is used for neurons. Okay, that's produced by neoglucogenesis. Even if you go for a zero carb diet, the glucose is maintained by keto. There is one step more, one more acetate coenzyme. See, there is a acetate coenzyme is like a railway junction. The glucose, the protein, the cholesterol, lipids, even ketone bodies are derived from acetate coenzyme, acetic acid.
But
What is
when we don't have obvious carbs, and carbs are found everywhere.
okay?
If you don't eat obvious carbs for the rest of your life, there's okay.
Yeah, no issues, no issues. The small quantity of glucose is generated by neoglucogenesis. So absolutely no harm in that. Yeah. Glucose and lipid metabolism. See the cup. This is a sensor. CHREBP is the glucose sensor in the cytoplasm. Once it is activated, glucose drives into de novo lipogenesis rather than getting into electron transport chain. So this is a major trigger. So high glycemic load activates CHREBP. So this pathway helped me to treat metabolic syndrome. most of my patients HbA1c below 6.5 just by controlling this factor. So we developed a dietary protocol according to to target this pathway. So that main step is very simple. Like in Indian diet, 1,600 calories derived from carbohydrate. In human breast milk, 60% calorie, maybe 1,600 could be 90% of our total calorie intake derived from carbohydrate. And 20 to 30%, maybe 300 calories we derive from fat and 100 calories are the protein. This is the actually one of the main issues with the. So we have modified a dietary protocol where I increase the fat calories to 1,000 calories per day.
By taking heat.
Ghee. So, the example, the human breast milk, 60-30-10. 60% of fat, 30% glucose, 10% protein. Same diet is highly beneficial to reduce HbA1c. So you can say, I call it as a breast milk diet. Okay. The nutritional profile of human breast milk, 60-30-10. 60 from fat, 30 from carb, 10 from. You can simplify with your patient. So 60-30-10 pattern. To reverse diabetes, to reverse visceral fat, we have a different pattern. That is 80-15-5 pattern.
But
85.
we also talk about the other ratio, which is 70-20-10,
Ah.
which is 70% fat, 20% protein, 10% carbs.
Okay, what's the problem now? So when young patient come with the diabetes, obesity, they can, but older people are reluctant to change the diet. So what happens? They cannot go beyond 50%. So usually I give for an older diabetes patient 45-45-10. 45 fat, 45 carb and 10% of. It is easy to adopt for longer time.
In breast milk it's 10 protein.
60-30-10. 60-30-10. 60 is fat,
30 is carb.
30 is carbohydrate, 10 is protein.
That's the diet we should.
Yeah, that could be, we are designed for same pattern, definitely. And that's a mystery again. The human breast milk have highest calorie from fat and cholesterol. And protein, lowest protein is found for human breast milk. Like in all mammalian species, there are 6,500 mammalian species. The fat protein carb ratio is 4:4:4. 4% of fat, 4% of carb, 4% of protein. But only in human breast, protein is below 1%. What could be the reason? Answer is brain. All the living, this mammalian species, they survive by muscles. Muscle is made up of protein. We survive by brain. So we don't require much protein for and 50% of total energy synthesized in human body feed 2% of the total human brain is 2% of body weight, but 50% of ATP is replaced by brain. And in human being, 20% ATP goes to muscles. But in all animal, most of the ATP goes to muscles, 10% goes to. This is a huge contrast, So this we have to keep in the mind that human is a fractivorous because we have a unique and intelligent and brain, which is made up of fat and cholesterol. Resource and investigation liver-directed acetoconazole for the treatment of non-alcoholic steatotic hepatitis. So now I quickly go through mechanism of non-alcoholic fatty liver disorders. Yeah, NAFLD. So again, what happens here? I mentioned to you, there's a three potential mechanism to generate lipids intestinal. The chylomicron transport fat and cholesterol from intestine to liver cells. Second, de novo lipogenesis, supported by insulin. Third is adipocyte. Free fatty acids generated from adipocytes are mobilized back to hepatic cells. Okay. So what happens? The main problem, the lipids in hepatic cells are stored in the form of lipid droplet. So insulin resistance leads to unregulated lipolysis. The triglycerides broken to free fatty acids, mobilized back to liver cells. And the lipid droplet in cytoplasm, there are multiple binding sites. So they attach to endoplasmic reticulum, they attach to lysosome, peroxisome. You know, this generates a type of inflammation. Free fatty acid induce hepatitis. So this called as lipotoxicity, NAFLD and adiposity. Different kind of lipid droplet contact sites. So one of the major problem, deposition of lipids in endoplasmic reticulum, because endoplasmic reticular stress is the major trigger for apoptosis. ER stress, you know. So
Okay.
apoptosis.
Look at the last slide. Free fatty acid. So free fatty acid, not triglyceride associated with all that.
Yeah. So what happens, once the lipid droplets accumulate, the normal healthy hepatocytes, less than 5% of the fat, it's called as healthy liver, okay. So 30% of individual develop NAFLD, non-alcoholic fatty liver disorder, where fat deposition is more than 5%. And 20-40% progress to NASH, so the fat accumulation is combined with the inflammatory cells. That's the difference between NASH and fatty liver. In fatty liver, inflammatory cells are extremely low. Once the fatty infiltration combined with the inflammatory cells, it is called as non-alcoholic steatotic hepatitis. So what happened? This activated macrophages and inflammatory cells, and particularly HSC, hepatic stellate cells, HSC, they differentiate into myofibroblast. In the myofibroblast, they produce fibrin and collagen, and extracellular space is occupied by collagen. That leads to fibrosis of it. So this all begins with the lipid droplet, and all the lipids are derived from adipocyte. Adipocyte derived lipids accumulate, that cause endoplasmic reticular stress, leads to activation of inflammatory cells. They produce collagen, and matrix is replaced by collagen. That leads to fibrosis. Okay. So this is the steps of mechanism of non-alcoholic fatty liver disorder. So again, the fundamental cause is insulin resistance. It's not that related. You know, I know most of the people, they stop consuming fat the moment they diagnose with the fatty liver. In fact, they worsen their condition. They have to. Yeah. Next, dyslipidemia. So this is my first step. After these 2 slides, I'm going to dietary management. No? Okay. Yeah, okay. So next one, you know that French paradox: protein, fat, and carb. Total cholesterol is about 250, HDL is above 50, diabetes 4%, your diabetes 60, cholesterol is very low, and carbohydrate is account 85% of so glycemic load. Despite of having low cholesterol, the cardiovascular death is merely 150 death in 1 lakh populations. You know, so the main culprit here, excess carbs leads to insulin resistance. And so how this leads to a condition called as dyslipidemia. Normal lipid profile, cholesterol 200, dyslipidemia, cholesterol is absolutely normal range, but LDL mostly, you know, here, but LDL with a small LDL particle. HDL is above 45 and HDL is below 40. Triglycerides are elevated, 200. You know, so this is a symptoms I get lots of patients in Karnataka, because I never treat cardiac patients, but they come carry their reports to my hospital. You know. So I just found lots of patients have elevated triglyceride. LDL is perfectly within normal range. So this condition is called as dyslipidemia. Cholesterol is, so hypercholesteremia, different from dyslipidemia. So what is the small LDL cholesterol? Predicted the risk of ischemic heart disease in men. So lipids, usually one cholesterol. A cholesterol designed to carry about 1600 cholesterol and 250 triglycerides. It's a normal structure of, So what happens in dyslipidemia? The cholesterol goes up. The cholesterol content of LDL drop. That results in small size. So triglyceride LDL particles are called as triglyceride rich LDL particle is called as small LDL particle. So this is the major mechanism of, and the culprit here, excess triglycerides. Triglycerides are results of insulin resistance. So insulin resistance shrink your LDL to small LDL particle. That is one of the major atherosclerotic risk in the Indian population and strongly related to insulin resistance. Small LDL cholesterol content drop, triglycerides, and one more pathway for it actually, there is the ester transfer. Usually the triglyceride from HDL, what's the mechanism of triglyceride formation? Yeah, no. First, chylomicron carry cholesterol and lipids from the intestine through the chylomicrons. Okay. So you can say that it's a ship. Chylomicrons are 95% of consist of triglycerides, 5% cholesterol. It's like a huge ship. Okay. As it is mobilizing the lymphatic circulation, and medium chain triglycerides are not transported in chylomicron. They are transported through portal circulation. So the coconut oil, once you consume, it delivers to liver cells through portal circulation and the very few delivery. But all long chain, there are 4 categories of lipids: short chain, medium chain, long chain, and very long chain. The carbon number 2 to 4 is called as short chain, which is the main fuel for gut bacteria. Okay, 2 to 4. Neither plant nor animal can produce short chain fatty acid. Next, the carbon chain between 4 to 6 to 12, called as MCT, medium chain triglyceride. Coconut oil and custard milk is a source of medium chain triglyceride. So that's transported through portal circulation, binding to proteins, transporting proteins. Okay. Next is long chain. The carbon above 12 to 20 is called as long chain fatty acid. Most of the edible fats, including mustard oil, ghee, or nard, which is a pork fat, sunflower oil, all the edible fats belongs to category of long chain. Very long chain, above 20 carbon chain. It's omega-3 fatty acids, EP and the glucose. So the carbon chain above 14 transported in chylomicron. Below 12, portal circulations. So what happens here? Chylomicrons carry most of the triglycerides and cholesterol from the intestine. As it mobilizes the lymphatic circulation, the enzyme called as lipoprotein lipase remove the triglycerides. So the size shrink. Before delivering to hepatic size, 80% of the triglycerides are removed by lipoprotein lipase. So the familial hypertriglyceridemia is result of mutation to lipoprotein lipase, LPL. Mutation leads to familial hypertriglyceridemia. So once the chylomicron deliver the fat and cholesterol to liver cells, which disintegrate into fatty acids, and it's very important steps. So there are in liver cells, the fat and cholesterol, the triglycerides are delivered from 3 sides. One is from adipocyte, de novo lipogenesis. So the fat generated by de novo lipogenesis and fat derived from intestinal transport assembled to form VLDL. VLDL in liver cells. Okay. VLDL is secreted to plasma. As it mobilizes to the systemic circulation, the lipoprotein lipase from the VLDL remove triglycerides. But cholesterol is not. The size again reduced. That became LDL cholesterol. And LDL deliver the cholesterol to cell membrane. This is the mechanism. So chylomicron, disintegrate in liver cells to form VLDL. VLDL is also rich in triglycerides. As it moves in the plasma circulation, the triglycerides are removed, it transforms to LDL cholesterol. LDL delivers the cholesterol to cell membrane, and HDL transport back those cholesterol. You see, billions of cells die every day. Every day, billions of cells die, you know. So the cell membranes are made up of cholesterol and fat. So which has to bring back to liver. So HDL responsible to carry cholesterol and lipids from the cell membrane and endothelium back to liver cells. So this is a cholesterol. It's called as cellular cholesterol, the cholesterol trafficking, extracellular cholesterol trafficking. So chylomicron. This is my one of the 3-hour topic. Okay, so I'm just brief about intracellular and extracellular cholesterol trafficking. It's a very complex topic. So what happened here? So the insulin resistance leads to hypertriglyceridemia. Hypertriglyceridemia make LDL particle to shrink because of excess. And there is one more important enzyme which transfer there is one transfer. HDL cholesterol transfer triglyceride to LDL cholesterol. Sorry, LDL transfer the triglycerides to HDL. HDL transport cholesterol to. So this process reduce the shelf life of HDL cholesterol. So excess triglycerides activate a pathway where cholesterol degraded very quickly in liver cells. So reduce the HDL cholesterol. The size of LDL became small in size, and that is one of the major mechanism of dyslipidemia. So the size is, both size is same. You see the total cholesterol is same, but here this is triglyceride rich LDL particle, result of insulin resistance. So this may not manifest as atherosclerosis. This is a high risk for, though the cholesterol is similar, insulin resistant, reduce the size of LDL particle. So with the high serum level of small LDL particle. Yeah. Pattern A, pattern B, this is a particle number actually. You know, the size of particle. So hyperlipidemia triglycerides, excess triglyceride leads to overproduction of VLDL and secretion to, circulation. Now I'm coming to the protocol. The mechanism of, we are seeing mechanism of type 2 diabetes, dyslipidemia, and non-alcoholic fatty liver disorder. The fundamental cause is inflammation in what? Visceral adipose tissues. That leads to overproduction of triglycerides, and neoglucogenesis keep substrate for de novo lipogenesis and leading to issues. So what could be the reason of visceral fat? So triple etiology. The main one is seed oils, the main culprit, because we know that there are population who consume huge amount of carbohydrates. Maybe Haveka Brahmins in Circassian, they take lots of fructose and glucose, but they don't suffer from. The main culprit is seed oil introduced in 1890.
Mustard.
Not mustard, seed oils like omega-6 richer. Mustard is mufa. It's a mufa actually. It's a mufa. I'm talking about pufa. You can say omega-6 toxicity. The major, because the omega-6 is precursor of arachidonic acid. Arachidonic acid leads to prostaglandins and leads to obesity, visceral fat, inflammation leads to the fat deposition in the viscera. One of the main culprits is, so these are the 3 factors. The first is excess glycemic load, excess glycemic load, carbohydrate, rich diet, like we are seeing in Indian. So the main problem here, the carb without physical activity. So we are seeing one function of insulin signaling to translocate GLUT4 from cytoplasm to cell membrane. It's called as insulin activated glucose uptake. And there is one more insulin glucose transporting part, which is called as exercise induced glucose uptake. There's a two uptake, okay? Insulin induced glucose uptake, exercise induced glucose uptake. So in exercise induced glucose uptake, the GLUT4 from cytoplasm translocate to cell membrane without getting activation from insulin. So you do 1 hour of physical activity, like contract the muscles for 1 hour. So the GLUT4 from the cytoplasm mobilizes to cell membrane, they await for the glucose to arrive. It's called as, there's a two pathway by which glucose can enter to mitochondria. So in a bank employee or a sedentary lifestyle, the 500 gram of glucose enter with the help of insulin. But in labor classes, the insulin secretion, they are not required excess secretion. The problem that today, because of sedentary lifestyle and coupled with the high carb diet, activated hyperinsulinemia. So that's the reason. Before 100 years ago, they were eating lots of carbohydrate, but none of them developed a. Yeah. So if you are leading a sedentary lifestyle, the best fuel is fat. Fat is the best fuel for sedentary. But a labor class, definitely they can process because of activation. Just you can study this pathway. Okay. Exercise induced glucose uptake. The GLUT4, it's a mystery actually, but they found that when the cellular ATP level drop to more ADP, ratio changes, like ADP ratio, some mysterious pathway, the GLUT4 push to cell membrane. But one fact is sure that the high ATP in the cytoplasmic ATP inhibit this pathway. So when you do physical activity, ATP level drop to ADP, that activates GLUT4 to translocate to cell membrane without help of insulin. So very simple example, take 1 hour exercise. Repeat, not a heavy exercise. Mild weight, repeat for 300 times, 100 times. So this helps to increase the GLUT4 in cell membrane for 24 hours. Not 1 meal. That implies that you do 1 hour exercise, after 24 hours, maybe up to 3 hours, we can improve the insulin, the glucose uptake.
What if you exercise on an empty stomach? Then what happens?
No, it's not applicable for walking. Only contraction.
No, he's asking empty stomach. Don't eat anything and do this repetitions.
Yeah, maybe.
See, very often what happens is one exercise in the morning and one is doing.
No, see, what I do, I recommend coffee with the butter morning, before exercise. That gives the calories. Like 1 tablespoon of butter.
Coffee and exercise.
Yeah, coffee and with the, that's what I recommend to my patients.
Yeah, or sometimes
Sometimes
sit
empty
here.
stomach coffee is also, let's say,
What is that?
empty stomach black coffee.
No, we are
That's
adapted.
fine, no problem.
Yeah, my region, everybody drinks black coffee.
No, what you're saying is that you should exercise after you had your coffee and butter.
Yeah, but empty stomach is better, no? Empty stomach, because
MCT oil is
No,
okay.
I'm asking this. Suppose one exercising and one is empty stomach.
okay.
Then you still get a benefit.
Yes, you get the benefit because the only problem insulin spike,
But with the dinner, it's night before.
See, it is better to eat carbs before exercise. After, always keep in mind that before coming to exercise, the exercise helps to transport glucose very effectively by activation. But night meal, we are not mobilizing in a dinner, after dinner, So better to reduce the carb after night meal.
Now, morning exercise, can it affect the night meal?
Morning exercise improves insulin sensitivity for 24 hours. It's not just a glucose, burning the glucose to ATP. It is actually the main benefit of exercise, not to burn the calories, okay? Main benefit, like GLUT4 translocation. It increases the density of GLUT4 in cell membrane. And it stays for 24 hours.
What is
20.
How does having a little bit of carbohydrate help? Because I don't eat any carbohydrates till my first meal.
Okay.
Should we eat anything before exercise or not?
See, the carbs, my gym trainer always says, because you eat little carb before Otherwise, the protein breakdown.
No, but some amount of carbs in many cases.
See, before exercise, what's the benefit? You are doing 1 hour of exercise, okay? So that will facilitate glucose transport quickly because of independent mechanism of insulin.
And suppose somebody is not eaten and fasted for 12 hours and
12
is
hours.
doing strength training.
Strength
Then
training.
what is the impact? Is it not beneficial to do that?
After 12 hours of fasting,
Is it not beneficial to do strength training?
yes, strength training is definitely helpful. But before exercise, it's the only one time you can eat because of.
No, but if you don't eat, is it harmful?
No, don't eat. There, it's
No,
difficult
this is very
to
important.
mild
It's
exercise.
very
Yeah.
Yeah,
Let
we
us
all
say that you
exercise
had it.
without eating.
Okay, dinner.
We are practicing intermittent fasting.
Intermittent
But the
fasting.
only time I had to exercise is early morning.
Early morning.
PTMT.
Okay, okay. No, no. See, walking. I'm talking. Okay, sorry, I'm confused. I'm talking about weightlifting.
No, I'm talking about weight strength training.
Strength training.
Weightlifting.
Yeah, we all do weight
No, no.
lifting.
I think Guy is saying that your aerobic activity is better in the morning.
Yeah.
And strength training is better.
Yeah, maybe I have to find out. I've never thought about this perspective. I'll think and I'll give you answer.
Strength training is better after eating.
Strength training is because always we require, because we are burning 500-600 calories, you know. So we require some fuel to support your active or giddiness, lack, hypoglycemia may happen if you don't go for a heavy exercise without calorie intake. Yes, yes, yes. Okay. Yeah. So this is the carbohydrate density of pre-agricultural diet. Before we agriculture, invention, because we know that the human evolution maybe it's about 4 million years, 40 lakh years. To compare, so 40 lakh, the modern human being about 2 lakh years ago. 2 lakh years ago. But we descended from tree to ground 5 million years ago, 50 lakh years ago. Human descended to ground. Okay. So what happens? From most of the time evolution, we exposed to maximum carbon density
That's
below 20%, including tubers. Tubers, nuts, you see, this is the maximum carbon density. But post-agriculture, the glycemic density suddenly shot to 70 to 80% of grains, all grains, whole carbs, 70 to 80%. And we are not evolutionarily adapted to process huge amount of carbohydrate because of activation of carbohydrate transport element binding protein.
The nuts
Yeah.
controversy is that should we eat nuts in the morning or in between meals? I tell my patients in between meals. Is it right now?
Okay, maybe just a
Anyone? Anyone? Should we eat
So what?
nuts before meal or in between? That's nuts. I tell people in between.
Yeah, like either like a snack or add it to the meal.
So high carbohydrate diet induce hepatic insulin step to prepare from substrate overload. So we are seeing the glycemic index and glycemic load in relation to change in body weight, body fat distribution and body composition. Dietary glycemic load is associated with the adipose tissue of adults. So second factor, the first factor contributing to visceral adiposity, glycemic load. Glycemic load, so that's the one main factor. Second main contributing factor is fructose, because the structure of glucose C6H12O6 similar to fructose C6H12O6, but the glucose can process it in mitochondria to generate ATP. Fructose cannot process in mitochondria to generate ATP. So majority of the fructose, whether it is from jaggery, honey, convert into triglycerides, and triglycerides goes to mitochondria. There's some intermediate steps for fructose metabolism. That's what the fructose are one of the major factor for de novo lipogenesis. The structure is similar, C6H12O6.
Then one should not have fructose.
No, we can consume it. I'm coming to this point. Okay. The mitigating factors and metabolic mechanism. Chronic liver disease was almost always due to alcohol intake, viral infection or hepatic biliary condition down. The leading cause of chronic elevation in liver enzyme is NAFLD. Moreover, there is some evidence fructose utilization has facilitated metabolic process. 90% of fructose is uptaken by liver and converted into triglycerides by de novo lipogenesis. But the glucose, you see, only the excess glucose converted into triglycerides. Right, that's what I told you. When you consume,
All fructose is converted.
into.
So what do you mean fructose? How do you?
That's what. There is a protective mechanism. I'll show you that protective mechanism. So small intestine converts dietary fructose into glucose, and before delivering to plasma, dietary fructose is taken by epithelial cells, convert fructose into glucose, because nature knows that it's a toxic to liver cells. So before delivering to hepatocytes, this is an important process, protectors. But the benefit of fruits are mixed with the fiber, so the fructose absorption rate is very slow. So there is adequate time for the intestinal cells to convert fructose into glucose. But when you take beverages, mix the fructose to tea, what happens is spill over to the plasma, directly reach to liver cells, where it converts into triglycerides.
Basically, you should have the fructose with fiber.
Fruits, yeah, fruits, fructose with the fiber.
Yeah,
Yeah.
a lot of fruits that have.
Even fruit juices are dangerous here because this rapid absorption rate is the important factor here. The main,
We can take fruit before meals, after meals.
fruits.
Fruit.
Always after, I think.
Yeah, fruits.
Because fruit is
I think-
100% fructose. Fruit is 100% fructose.
Yeah, so what can we vegetable, I give a combination of VFC, vegetable, fat and protein and carbs.
That's it.
That's the combination I'm giving to VFC, vegetable, fat and fat. So what happens, the fat slow down the gastric emptying time, so the glucose from the stomach mobilize very slowly to intestine. So that is the absorption.
Vegetable fat and
Yeah, vegetable, fat and
For
VFC.
how long the food should stay in the stomach?
Which one, sir?
For how long the food should stay in the stomach for proper metabolism?
Vishnu, എത്ര സമയം
Or you mean intestine?
One more issue here, the sophisticated machineries to powder the grains. So we have mills that powder the grains to tiny particles, so absorption rate is very faster, which causes insulin spike. Before the grounded or whole grains, that's brought down very slowly. So this main problem here, the spike. It's not how much carb you consume, how much carb entered in a short span of time, which activate insulin spike. Insulin spike leads to carbohydrate, that activation of transcriptional factors.
now if we eat too much quickly.
Yeah, quickly. That contributed this modern devices, machineries, they powdered the grains to very, very tiny particles, so that digest the amylase break into glucose very quickly and glucose spike. Glucose spike leads, so glucose spike never happened in evolution, except and insulin resistance. Insulin resistance was a protective mechanism. So the individual with the insulin resistance, they deposited fat, so they could survive 6 months of famine. That was a protective mechanism. So if you want to store the fat in to gain the obesity, to get the plumpiness, only one way, insulin resistance. So how to initiate insulin resistance? So during summer time, there was plenty of fruits and honey. That is the only one luxurious food for hunter-gatherers. They munched on excess calorie from glucose and fructose. What happens? They developed a mild insulin resistance. That helped them to store the extra food in adipocyte. So that extra fat helped them to survive during the period of. So there are so many studies highlight that insulin resistance was the protective mechanism for back in to store the fat in adipocyte. Without insulin, that's why my friend Dr. Hegde lives in a village. I visited 20 years ago to his like a village house, and I found that all kids put on the weight like end of June. So I asked them, how did you put on the weight, like plumpiness in the face? So everyone told me that Hegde's mother told me, Mavinu Vannu Tindukondu weight ಜಾಸ್ತಿ ಆಯ್ತು ಅಂದ್ರೆ means eating mangoes because they have their house is surrounded by 2 houses and 1,000-acre forest. Thus you must visit this location. It's a Brahmin population, 2 houses in middle of 1,000-acre forest. So there are plenty of local mango trees. The labor people, workers, they carry in big basket and kept under the like in the main entrance. So they eat not 1 kg, 3 kg, 4 kg per day. So what happens? The excess fructose from mangoes, they induce mild insulin resistance by increasing visceral adipose tissue. So they put on the weight. That's what the baby food. Baby food main ingredient is sugar and omega-6 fatty acids. So child get plumpiness. When child brings the breast milk of mother, they stay very slim. So the plumpiness, parents are very happy. And see, what is the plumpiness? Insulin resistance. Without inducing insulin resistance, we cannot get fat deposition and adipose. There is only one mechanism to store it. So insulin resistance was a protective mechanism older days when the food scarcity. But today, see, I studied the food habits of a calorie intake of Australian tribes. I found that in some season it went to 4,000 calories. And in 5 months consecutively they had 100 to 200 calorie intake. So all the stored fat helped them to survive. So genes with the faster insulin resistance, they survive the females. So today the individual who carry the insulin resistance genes, access to 24-hour foods and 365 days, they activate they manifest as type 2 diabetes.
What food?
Yeah. So what happened? High fructose, fructose spill over to plasma from the intestine. So it's supposed to convert into most small intestine clear most of fructose and glucose and organic acid made from fructose. So high dose fructose leads to. So this is a pathway leads to.
Can we just see this slide in last one?
What are we saying here?
So low dose fructose, actually in low dose fructose in foods, the small intestine clear most of the fructose.
And in high dose?
In high dose, the spillover, the fructose spillover from the
The liver.
to plasma and liver cells, where it converts into triglycerides. But in low dose, the glucose converts into fructose.
Then what is your instruction on how much food one should?
That's yes.
Excuse me, I have a question.
Okay.
Do oligosaccharides are added to certain diabetic-friendly foods?
Okay. Yes.
So what is the?
That's a start. That's actually resistant start. It goes to colon.
So that is what?
See, fructooligosaccharides and last slides are protocolactin. Okay. Yeah, this is. I'm finishing, sir. 2 more slides. Okay.
We need more practical advice on that.
Yes, sir. So I'm coming to this one, sir. Next is omega-6 fatty acids. So this is very important. This is a main practical advice here. So what happens? The nuts are omega-9. There are 2 types of fat, omega-6 and omega-3 fatty acids. Okay, and saturated fat, vegetable, coconut, and short chain fatty acids. So the main inflammatory fat is omega-6 fatty acids. So you can reduce the carb, substitute carb calories to omega-9 or saturated fat. Pardon?
Come again.
They replace the calories from carbs to saturated fat or omega-9, monounsaturated fatty acids. So that's the major dietary steps to be adopted.
What about the baking industry?
Pardon, madam?
What about the baking industry?
That's what the service need to. It is running out. So I'll finish quickly with the protocol and. Yeah, that's it. So again, you need to study the evolution. Omega-6 was the 1% of total calories, the entire evolution. But after invention of seed oils, the 1% of total calorie increased to 10% of total calories today. So 10% of our total calories derived from seed oils, omega-6, This is highly inflammatory. It's a double-edged sword because saturated fat, zero double bond, mono. The first double bond is located on 9th position from omega end. So it's called as omega 9 or mono unsaturated fatty acids. But all the mammals lack the enzymes to produce omega 6 fatty acid. In omega 6 there are multiple double bond. First double bond on 6th position, second on 9th position. This is omega 3. First double bond on 3rd position from omega N is called as omega 3 fatty acids. Okay. So the major culprit of metabolic syndrome is omega 6 fatty acid. It's a why these double bonds are dangerous, sir? They are very vulnerable for oxidation. And remember, cell membranes consist of phospholipids, and mitochondrial membrane is made up of phospholipids. So when you have too much of omega 6 in mitochondrial membrane, reactive oxygen species attack the double bond of omega 6 fatty acids, and that leads to inflammatory process actually. So it's a very long topic again, so I don't have time, that's what I'm quickly passing on. So omega 6 in sunflower, corn oil, cottonseed and so I prefer saturated fats are highly stable, they lack double bonds, they are very stable in cell membrane. So what happens when you have a oxidized fat in cell membrane? Immune system gets activated. It's an immunogenic in the nature, So omega 6, reduce the omega 6 intake, and equally important omega 3 to omega 6 fatty acid ratio 1:1. I recommend 1000 milligram of omega 6, omega 3 per day. One of the benefit of omega 3 fatty acid, which can remove the macrophage from visceral fat. There are so many studies. Omega 3 never reduce plasma glucose directly, indirectly, because it reduces visceral fat macrophage, and that results in a control of inflammation. So the main dietary step, I'm coming to the practical solution. The major molecule should be fat, because we have excellent ability to process fat, and which is a mutation happened 4 million years ago. It's called as ApoE4 mutation. So even monkeys transport cholesterol in chylomicron, LDL particle. In all mammals transport in same way, similar way, like chylomicron, LDL particle. So what happens here? But about 40 lakh years ago, we had a mutation, LDL cholesterol mutation, that helped us to transport fat very quickly to brain cells. So the fat is the best fuel to replace carbohydrate. Carbs. So typical Indian diet with the 80% carbs and 5% protein, 15% of fat. So this is a reversal diet. Reversal diet with 75% carb and protein, 20%. So vegetarian fat loss diet. Good fat, like you can go up to 1000 calories from one salads. The best way to incorporate fat, salads. So easily you can incorporate 800 calories to a single salad. Like you require minimum 4 tablespoons of olive oil, which give you 500 calories. The nuts, paneer, with the vegetable. The great way to lose that. So I keep them on salad diet for 1 month to reduce the visceral glycemic. So it could be 2000 calories. I don't manipulate with the calories. It is just adding the fat calories and replacing the glucose calories. So it's a vegetarian weight loss chart. So non-vegetarian weight loss chart. So what to eat? Reduce the carbs intake and vegetable, fat and protein. Nuts, seeds, paneer, coconut. 1 coconut What could be the calorie from one coconut?
One
A
coconut.
single coconut.
How many calories?
Yeah, it's probably around 800 calories. One single coconut. So very easy for, in Kerala I train them to cook vegetable in coconut milk.
Vegetable?
In coconut milk.
Like
It's called as
like
stew.
house food, vegetables and coconut.
Coconut milk.
Coconut.
Yeah.
Like house way.
Yeah, vegetables in coconut milk, So use the one coconut. I recommend paneer, 200 gram of paneer give around 40 gram fat. So we can say approximately 100 in long run. 100 gram of fat, 100 gram of maybe protein could be distinct, like 1 gram per kg body weight. 100 grams of carbs. 100 gram carbs is 400 calories. 100 gram of fat could be 1000 calories. So you can go to up to 125 gram of fat. So how to get 125 gram fat in the ordinary diet? One best way is coconut. Maybe you think half coconut can give around 40 gram of fat. Next around 100 gram of paneer give 20 gram fat. So it's about 50 gram of fat.
Okay, to eat coconut every day.
Yeah, 50 gram of nuts give you another 20 gram of fat. It's 70 gram fat. Next is you can try 2 tablespoons of ghee, 30 gram fat, 100 gram. And if you add 50 gram of seeds, like pumpkin seeds, and it goes to 125 gram of and a healthy way of adding the fat to this diet, Next is, so this is a long-term diet. Maybe difficult to go for 80, 15, 5. Long-term diet, 45% of fat and 45% carbon, protein. Typical Indian diet was reversal diet. Carb is 80. Yeah, I can go last slide. Yeah. Typical Indian diet with the maintenance diet, 45. So this diet prefer for long run. Maybe 2 months we can keep on the keto type diet, 3 months maximum. So it keep slowly, gradually come to. So if someone with a chronic diabetes, longer period of and above 50, start with or 60-30-10 breast milk combination, 60-30-10, or we can choose 45-45-10. So this is a reversal diet with the maintenance diet. So this is the dietary protocol. Next, I use some of the supplements as well. 3 major supplements for metabolic syndrome. One is invariably omega-3 fatty acids. Omega-3 fatty acids mainly responsible to reduce visceral fat macrophages, because we see it's an inflammatory disease. To reduce the visceral fat inflammation, omega-3 fatty acids. Second, there are some herbs that target visceral fat inflammation. Cinnamon and Serratia reticulata. Serratia reticulata. That's a Qutab. I don't know the. We tell Ekanayakam in Malayalam. Ekanayakam. Serratia reticulata.
What form is it?
No, see, we have made some. Sir will talk about that. Yes, yeah. Serratia reticulata, cinnamon. This is, and one more. Omega-3 fatty acids, which നമ്മുടെ visceral fat working ഒരു molecule ഉണ്ടല്ലോ.
What about berberine?
Berberine is actually it reduces intestinal absorption. So I'm talking about there are different class of drugs. If you reduce the intestinal absorption, maybe few drugs reduce the neoglucogenesis. But I'm talking about targeting visceral fat. The visceral fat, because that is a fundamental cause. But you see, these medicines does not respond for 1 or 2 days. It takes little, so the medicine which works after 1 month is really addressing visceral fat. So if some medicines which is reducing glucose overnight, that may be interfering with the insulin absorption, or but I see my medicines what I developed, it start providing amazing result after 1 month, because it is truly targeting the fundamental cause, that is the visceral fat. Then third is short chain fatty acids. So keep in mind 3 fatty acids are important here. 3 fats. One is high fat diet. The fats comes under which category? Edible fats. I spoke to you earlier. Which category? The fats, small, short chain.
Medium chain.
So the answer is these 4 fats. Medium chain from coconut. All the edible fats are nuts, but long chain. Omega 3 is very long chain.
But medium chain goes into water separation, then let the store fat in the liver.
No. The storing the fat comes from free fatty acids from adipocyte, not from, So the medium chain triglycerides, they don't require a transporter too. Like, the long chain fatty acids are transported like through a transporter molecule. So the MCT can directly jump to mitochondria. There is a carnate phosphatase or some other enzymes. So 4 fats. One is very long chain. How many grams? 1 gram, 1000 mg. Then long chain, medium chain. So another fat, short chain fatty acids, which is a result of fiber fermentation in colon. So the soluble fiber, like we have a pre-fiber and unique fructooligosaccharides. Soluble fiber and insoluble fiber. Insoluble fiber, they goes to colon, incorporate to stool, eliminate through the feces. But soluble fiber goes to colon, gut microbes convert it into short chain fatty acid. Short chain fatty acid delivered to hepatocytes, reduce the visceral fat information. So many studies are there. So the answer to metabolic syndrome, 4 fats. Short chain, medium chain, long chain. In long chain, you should avoid omega 6. You can choose all of the long chain fatty acids. And very long chain fatty acid, 1 gram. Soluble fiber, 50 gram. 50 gram of soluble fiber convert into 20-25 gram of short chain fatty acid in colon.
Insoluble fiber and insoluble fiber.
So insoluble fiber goes to stool. Soluble fiber never incorporate to stool. It converts into short chain fatty acid. And short chain fatty acid has receptors on visceral fat. If the short chain fatty acid bind to the adipocytes, the visceral fat differentiation can be controlled.
Short chain fatty acids are made from
Fiber.
which you are reducing by reducing grain.
No, grains are insoluble fiber. Grains are insoluble fiber, So that's grains are 0% of soluble fiber. So soluble fibers are found mainly in seeds, like flax seeds, fenugreek. There are like lady's finger, and we use a soluble fiber. It's an amazing way to control diabetes, actually, metabolic syndrome. Soluble fiber, derived short chain fatty acids. So this is a 3 major ones. Soluble fiber, herbs like which is targeting the visceral fat, omega 3 fatty acid in the supplement form. If the protein intake is very low, we can ask them to take little, like 1 scoop of protein powder also. So this is a total protocol of managing visceral fat inflammation. I hope you understood the mechanism of VAT and SAT. So, okay, I'm going to okay, break. Yes, yes.
Sorry, we are taking a 10-minute break for coffee or some snacks are there. And then we have a very interesting segment by Dr. Vishnu on disease reversal. He will be taking up 10 to 15 disease reversal protocols.
Disease reversal.
Actual protocols of disease
So
reversal.
today we covered 5 diseases: fatty liver, triglyceride, hypertriglyceridemia, PCOD, type 2 diabetes, and obesity. 5 diseases are covered by this. Grains are insoluble fiber. Soluble fiber is all the seeds and all the stem seeds and
So this snacks on
ladies'
this
finger, mucus layer. No, that's soluble fiber. Then jelly.
Anybody wants tea, coffee?
Foaming foods.
Dr. Praveen from last almost 10 years. So I have helped him develop these protocols regarding gut. That's what today I'm going to explain. How we have integrated Ayurveda, naturopathy in functional medicine. I have done my functional medicine from AAFM, American Academy of Functional Medicine 3 years back. So, but when we integrated Ayurveda, naturopathy with functional medicine, our results was quite a lot better, and we could reverse lots of disease. Even they go without any supplements also in a long run. So I'll start with digestive disorder. Okay, so when you come to the digestive disorder management, especially the acidity. So if you have heard, long back, Ayurveda had told, acidity could be also due to lack of stomach acid. There is two types of acidity that we deal with, Ayurvedic classification. One could be your hyperacidity, that you have got lots of hydrochloric acid secreting. Second thing, it could be lack of stomach acid, poor hydrochloric acid, due to which you develop lots of acidity symptoms. Okay, so we have certain questionnaires. We ask patients in order to differentiate, because most of the symptoms of hyperacidity and hypoacidity comes similar sometimes. So we have made Ayurvedic naturopathic questionnaire, in order to differentiate between hyperacidity from hypoacidity. Example, hypoacidity patient would always tell it's more of gas and bloating. They have more of gas and bloating. Hyperacidity patient would always come up with symptoms of chest burn, nauseation, etc. So in Ayurveda, it's the hypo.
Sorry, gas and bloating is feel it what?
Hypoacidity, low stomach acid. Hyperacidity patients comes with more of chest burn, sore belching, continuous nauseations, etc. Okay, and so according to Ayurveda, what they have told is it's mainly kapha. They call Ayurveda it is kapha, which is causing the hypoacidity. Means when you have too much of kapha in your body, it blocks your stomach acid production. So when we connect it with scientifically, one of the most recent cause for acidity is H. pylori infection, as everybody knows. So, but the same H. pylori can cause sometimes hyper, sometimes it can cause hypoacidity. So how this H. pylori cause both hyper and hypo, I am going to explain the mechanism. So it's so these are the it has got lots of virulence factors like urease, it has got flagella, it has got lipopolysaccharide, and certain types of protein, specifically two types of protein called as VAC-A and CAG-A, through which this protein is injected to the epithelial layer and they multiply. That is how the pathogen is, they multiply in the gut. Okay, so this is a pathogenesis of H. pylori. So they basically adhere to the host cell by using flagella, and they tend to reduce the stomach acid so that they can easily survive in the stomach. Okay. So when you do not have sufficient stomach acid, it's very difficult for you to digest protein. So patient would always have that typical symptom when they eat protein rich foods like paneer or chicken, fish or red meat, they bloat immediately. And that feeling of fullness, they eat a little bit of protein food, they start feeling full and they don't want to eat and they start getting burping. This is one of the classical hypoacidity symptoms. And this is, according to Ayurveda, this is hypoacidity as well. They have written, like long years before it. So they tend to reduce stomach acid, okay, and they colonize in the gut and they inject this protein called as VAC-A and CAG-A, which is, you can check this protein in stool testing, what they do in GI stool mapping, everything. Okay, and it causes lots of oxidative damage. Now, a bit of physiology on how H. pylori and how H. pylori affects the gut. So you have got a cell called as G cell located in the antral region. Okay, so when you have protein or when you have food, there is a stretch receptor getting activated which sends signals to the brain, and it sends signals to the G cell to release gastrin. Okay, and this gastrin enter to your blood circulation. it goes to your corpus area, okay, or fundus area where you have T cells. It's your parietal cells. Okay, it goes and activate your parietal cells, and then you secrete hydrochloric acid. Okay. Now there is one more types of cell in your fundal area or your corpus area called as D cell. Okay, this D cell controls your excess secretion of parietal cells or hydrochloric acid. Okay, so when the food start getting empty into the intestine, the D cells take over and they slowly inhibit the secretion of gastrin. So yeah, they inhibit the parietal cells so that not too much of hydrochloric acid is made. Okay, and you have, so the G cells secrete gastrin, it enters to the blood circulation, activate parietal cell, and hydrochloric acid is secreted. Okay, now what is the mechanism of hypoacidity that we have seen is when the H. pylori affect the fundus area, okay, or the corpus portion, which when we do the endoscopy and basically they tell the report like it is more of corpus gastritis. So when H. pylori inhibit or affect more of the corpus area, there is too much of somatostatin excretion. So if you have too much of somatostatin secreted into the gut, into the stomach lumen, you don't form sufficient amount of hydrochloric acid. And without hydrochloric acid, and if your stomach pH is more of alkaline, you don't activate another chemical called as pepsin. Without pepsin, you don't digest protein, and when this protein is undigested and when it is moved into the small intestine or colon, it is a cause, or it triggers autoimmunity. So even Ayurveda has written the cause for eczema or skin disease like psoriasis, urticaria, hypoacidity is a major reason. Okay, and they have used the word called as Agni Mandya. Agni is acid, hydrochloric acid. Mandya, deficiency. So low stomach acid gives you a lot of undigested protein to the colon or small intestine, which can potentially trigger leaky gut, or which leads to autoimmune disorder. So this is one of the connection between hypoacidity to your autoimmune disorders. Okay, so that's why when we use herbs in Ayurveda to stimulate, or naturopathy to stimulate the stomach acid production, we could get the skin disease better. So we treat the gut to fix acne. Yes, we treat the gut to fix psoriasis. We treat gut to fix even rosacea, urticaria, etc. Okay, so you have your HCl production inhibited when it is more of corpus, when the H. pylori affect more in the corpus region, or when patients comes with corpus gastritis, it's more of hypoacidity. It's again a theoretical thing that we have found, but we have some tests to clinically differentiate whether it is corpus or whether it is hypo or hyperacidity. Now the mechanism. Now the mechanism for hyperacidity. So this is most commonly seen nowadays. So when the H. pylori affect the antral region, so it's basically your antral gastritis. So when H. pylori affect the antral region, your G cells get inflamed too much, and you start secreting lots of gastrin into the blood circulation, which can potentially activate a lot of which can activate parietal cells, and you start getting lots of hydrochloric acid into the stomach, and you develop hyperacidity. Okay, so even the serum gastrin can be checked in order to understand whether it is hypo or hyperacidity, but that's just a test to differentiate whether it is hypo or hyper. Okay, so when you have got antral gastritis, it is more of gastrin which is triggered, can cause hyperacidity because you have got too much of HCl production. Okay, so this is the two pathways of your hyperacidity and hypoacidity. So one is gastrin, remaining that's what is, there is a simple testing that I will show you the slide. So this is a path. So these are the main reasons of the questionnaire that we focus. We regularly check our patient when they come with acidity to our clinic. One is we look for the endoscopy reports, and we look into the area where the H. pylori has affected. So if it is more of corpus, we start thinking on asking more of hypoacidity question.
So gastro people, they just do
Yes.
H. pylori test done, they don't tell you from where they took the.
No, it would be mentioned.
I do separately from fundus and separately from
Both different.
क्या कह रहे हैं?
separately. I take separate biopsies from the fundus and separate biopsies for the
Okay, sir, and also we have questionnaires. So it's not just with the single thing we have concluding. And definitely chronic use of antacid is another cause. Nutrition deficiency where zinc. Deficiency of zinc seems to be another cause for hypoacidity. And autoimmunity where you have got antibodies against intrinsic factor of castor. You have got anti-paratosal antibody, which is another cause, but maybe it is very rare. So these are the 4 causes behind hypoacidity. And cause for the hyperacidity, it is again the area where H. pylori is affected, basically antrum. So when it's antral gastritis, we tend to focus more on hyperacidity treatment. Okay, so this is what we do in our patient to differentiate whether it is a hypo or hyper. It's a simple test called as apple cider vinegar testing. So we ask the patient, apple cider vinegar, as you all know, it is acidic. If the pH is around 3 to 4. So we tell them to take 1 teaspoon of apple cider vinegar, mix it in glass of water, and consume it 5 minutes before food. Okay, and we tell them to take protein-rich foods. So if they feel better, if they tell that okay, I don't have symptoms or I feel better when I take apple cider vinegar, we diagnose it is more of hypoacidity and we try to fix the hypoacidity, or we apply more of hypoacidity herbs. Okay, this is one test. Second thing, we have another a remedy called as HCl Max. It's a herbal formulation that Dr.Praveen sir has made, which is again a traditional Ayurvedic remedy to stimulate the stomach acid. So this remedy is being written to cure Agni Mandya or hypoacidity in Ayurveda. So I give that particular medicine, it's just 1 teaspoon, put it in water and ask the patient to drink it 5 to 10 minutes before food. Then ask them to go for a protein-rich meal. So most of the patients would tell that, okay, I feel better, I don't have any protein indigestion symptoms or better. Then we confirm the diagnosis. So more than apple cider vinegar, HCl Max was was helping us to understand more of hypoacidity. Then we give them HCl Max for maybe a month of time or something, and they feel almost really better.
Even in the ACV testing, you have to keep on increase the dose of the
Yes.
till the time to feel the
Exactly, yeah. Even beating HCl capsules also, it's very difficult. Yeah. So that's why the HCl Max was very useful, sir. It's a simple Ayurvedic powder.
What form
It's a powder.
Powder.
You just need to put it in water and
before meal.
before food, so that your stomach is ready for the digestion. They are ready with that acid. Okay, so this is a simple thing. And also, functional medicine, according to functional medicine, if you have got low creatine levels, your urea is always low, your total protein is always low. Again, so that is another thing that it might be hypoacidity. So endoscopy, we look for the area where it is affected. We also look for the symptoms. Hypoacidity patients have more bloating and burping and indigestion towards the protein-rich food. Either apple cider vinegar testing or we do with the HCl Max and look for the renal profile, where the patient has got low urea, low creatine, low protein values. So that then almost going through all these 4 parameters, we try to conclude whether it is hypo or hyper and try to fix that. Okay, so this is the treatment protocol that that sir has developed. So he has made a herbal combination called as gastrocare. So the remedy is mainly by using DGL, the licorice extract, which is an anti-H. pylori herbal molecule. And we have also added black cumin, Nigella sativa, it's again an anti-H. pylori. It has got another 10 to 12 herbs, which all works. Even it has got Terminalia cebola, an Ayurvedic remedy which is used to paralyze the flagella of the H. pylori, and it reduces the cytokines like IL-6 and IL-8, which is mainly seen in the gastric lumen.
What is nagari?
So it's an Ayurvedic sarsaparilla. Sarsaparilla, it's a herb, sir. So
Nagari what?
you get the root of nannari, sarsaparilla in the market nowadays. It's available. You just need to, so it's a herb, Ayurveda herb. Yeah. So we tell the patient to boil it and keep drinking that water throughout the day so that you don't feel that acidic tendency or nauseation, etc. But this nanar is already a content of gastrocare, sir. So it again comes in a powder formulation. You just need to put it in water, take it after food twice a day. So maximum 30 to 45 days.
Gastrocare in both cases.
Yeah, so yeah, here we have extra things we will be adding, sir. But it works, both the root cause is H. pylori only, sir. Gastrocare formulation is mainly to eradicate the H. pylori. And we have a general probiotic formulation which is lactobacillus and bifidobacterium combo that we use. So it's gastrocare with probiotic formula that we combine to treat the chronic H. pylori mediated cases. And
They can take it together.
yeah, probiotic it's before food. We give it 30 minutes or 40 minutes.
Gastrocare is also before.
No, it's after food. It's 10 minutes after. 10 to 20 minutes after. And definitely we would do the dietary changes. We will ask them to take more of fermented ganji. If you know that, it's overnight leftover that rice ganji. Yeah, it's kanji. Sir, it's a probiotic food. So it gives you good relief in acidity, chest burns or belching, etc. So we also ask them to add more of cucumber juice in the diet. So I can share the diet chart also, so what we are giving to the patient. So this is the hyperacidity protocol management. And in hyperacidity, since the cause is again, dominant cause is since again H. pylori, gastro and probiotic formula is the common medicine we apply here. But here we would add more of this particular herb as an extra remedy, HCl max, to stimulate the acid production, to balance the acid production in the stomach. Okay. Yeah, and this is again another herb, but it's a content of HCl max. There is a Ayurvedic remedy called as Chitrakati Vadi. It's a famous Ayurveda herb where it helps you stimulate the acid. But HCl max has got that content. So if it is more of gas, bloating, more of burping, protein indigestion, we go with this particular treatment strategies. If it is more of sore belching, nauseation, that chest burn thing, we go with this particular remedy. We see what is dominated and try to treat it. According to the patient, we can make the changes. But usually by applying gastrocare and probiotic, most of the symptoms go away. So that's the acidity remedy that we are using. Okay. So that's the stomach related treatment method that we are using. Now the same protocol we could apply it for another disease which is migraine. Because again there is lots of relation between your gut and migraine. Not all the migraine, there is definitely hormonal mediated migraines, there is different types of migraine, but 60% of the migraine there is definitely a connection between the gut, especially H. pylori tend to be acidity. They always have, whenever I am acidic I get migraine, or when I am constipated I get more of migraine headache. So whenever we could treat the gut issues better, even the migraine was cured in so many cases. So while coming to the pathophysiology of migraine, it's a type of primary headache, and these are the features. Like definitely vomiting makes them feel better because you have got serotonin. You have a change, fluctuation in the serotonin levels after you vomit. That's why you feel better. And it's one-sided throbbing headache, and they always prefer dark, quiet room. And there is always aura, especially the scatoma. That's the most common type of aura. And the type of aura depends on the type of brain areas which is affected. Okay, different types of aura is there. But again, the final molecule which trigger migraine is something called as CGRP, which is your calcitonin gene-related peptide. So when we see the pathophysiology of the migraine headaches, it's your more trigeminal ganglion involvement. Okay, it's more of your trigeminal ganglion involvement. So when you have the That's why you have, whenever you have bright light exposure, the migraine triggers, or too much of sounds, or when you skip the meals. Ultimately, you have that CGRP, secreted from your, secreted from the central nervous system.
Can you slide from that?
And when this CGRP is released in your trigeminal area, ganglionic area, you have different types of vasoactive peptides also released there. Example, histamine. It's a vasoactive peptide which is released in the brain areas. Sometimes you have got bradykinin. So when you have got too much of bradykinin secreted, patient would come up with that classical symptoms of that, pulsating headache. That's a typical feature they would tell, pulsating headache. So they have got lots of bradykinin secreted in the central, in the trigeminal area. Okay. So there is nearly 6 to 7 types of vasoactive peptides secreted in the central nervous system. But again, ultimately, this is all the trigger of a pathway. The root cause, majority of the cases, again, it is your gut. So either when we treat the H. pylori or when we clear the constipation, this trigger to the brain reduces, and all these vasoactive peptides levels falls down in the brain, and even we could treat that migraine. So the treatment protocol that we apply for migraine in most of the cases is again the same gastro care with probiotic formula. If it is more of acidity or H. pylori mediated migraine cases, that's the same plan that we apply. But when if it is more of constipation or more of IBS related stuff, we have got a different treatment plan and different herbs that we use. I'll come to the IBS part. So it was hyperacidity, hypoacidity, which was a stomach related parts that I have discussed. Now it is your small intestine. So one of the very common symptoms of very common cause for your IBS or irritable bowel syndrome is SIBO, small intestinal bacterial overgrowth. So you have 3 types of IBS. One is constipation mediated, diarrhea mediated, or it could be mixed factors, and these are the triggering factors. It's mainly from the food or hormone variations, stress, but it's mainly the SIBO is one of the most common cause behind your IBS. I'll tell the management of SIBO that we use. Okay, and one more thing is the role of serotonin in the IBS. So as you all know, the serotonin is one of the major component which is secreted from the enterochromaffin cell in your small intestine to the gut, so that it activates the peristalsis. Okay, so one of the main function of serotonin is to activate the peristalsis, then it is taken to the brain. It's called as happy hormone. So if you have got too low serotonin levels in the gut, the peristalsis will not be activated, which can cause constipation. So I think there is a medicine called as propolopride or something. It's a serotonin agonist which is used nowadays. But we try to naturally stimulate the serotonin levels in the gut by using certain herbs, prebiotics and probiotics. So so once the serotonin is formed in the gut, once it is released into the gut, it is taken to the brain. It is taken to the brain through a particular receptor called as SCRT, serotonin reuptake transporter, which takes it to the brain. And this SCRT is influenced by many factors. SIBO cause variation in SCRT. So if you have got low SCRT expressed in the gut or intestinal layers, you don't have molecules to, you cannot transport the serotonin to the brain. So all the serotonin is dumped in the GI tract. It activates excess peristalsis and cause diarrhea. So that is one of the connection of pathway between IBS mediated diarrhea. Less SCRT expressed in the gut and too much of serotonin dumped into the intestine, which is activating peristalsis and leads to diarrhea. and but the cause for SCRT to alter is due to SIBO. So ultimately we have to fix the SIBO in order to reverse the IBS diagram. But in some cases you have got too much of expression of SCRT in the gut, which takes lots of serotonin, takes up lots of serotonin to the brain. So there is very less activation of peristalsis movement in the gut, which leads to constipation. Okay. So again, there the treatment protocol is to reduce the inflammation and balance the levels of SCRT in the gut. Okay. So again, another one more cause for the IBS is food poisoning. So when you get the food, when you cause this food poison like E. coli or Shigella dysenterica, it releases typical types of toxin to the gut. Okay, and sometime your body start forming antibodies to that toxins. That is called as anti-vinculin antibodies, which I'm sure you all might have heard of. Anti-vinculin antibody. So vinculin is a structure in the gut. Okay, it works like a motor. It helps your intestine to move and push the waste outside. But when you have vinculin antibodies developed, there will be poor movement of the gut, and again that is another typical reason for IBS constipation. So when it is post food poison mediated IBS constipation type of things, we have to clear that anti-vinculin antibody or the toxin which is deposited in the gut. So here we have got a different herbal line to reduce that. So most of your gut bacteria should live in the colon, but when the bacteria colonize in the small intestine, it's called as SIBO. So the cause might be due to excess antibiotic use or sometimes too much of sugar, excess intake of sugar, whatever. So when you have got this SIBO, bacterial overgrowth in the intestine, excess bacteria feeds on undigested food in your small intestine, particularly sugar and starch. So now the fermentation start happening in the small intestine itself, when you start getting severe symptoms like bloating, belching, burping, etc. Okay, and since small intestine is the area where you have got lots of maximum absorption happens, and you have got lots of inflammation and bacterial overgrowth there, and too much of bacterial overgrowth, you will also start forming a biofilm coating, a thin layer formed in the intestine, which stops your absorption of the nutrients to the blood. Okay, so SIBO can lead to a variety of issues like skin rashes, vitamin deficiency, and it can lead to autoimmune disorder. So even the most important treatment that we do for psoriasis is also by cleansing the small intestine. So what we have found, when we give the herbs or when we give the treatment plan to clear more of small intestine, it is helping to clear psoriasis. But when it is rheumatoid arthritis, the autoimmune disease like rheumatoid arthritis, when we target more of the colon cleansing, we are able to reduce the RA factor and anti-CCP antibodies. Psoriasis, we have to focus more on the small intestine. In Ayurveda also it is written that it is more of a small intestinal pathology. So when we come to the management of autoimmune disorder, we have to always focus whether the root cause is either from stomach, small intestine and large intestine. So we could differentiate that RA is more of large intestine or colon pathology, and psoriasis, eczema is more of small intestinal pathology. And that is something that we have done the cleansing of these particular areas by using herbs, and we could get the results. The same herbs, when we are using herbs to treat the colon, in psoriasis cases we could not get better results. So that's how we made the differentiation that certain autoimmune disease has got certain typical site of origin in your gut. Okay. Now based on the type of gas which is formed in the intestine, you have different types of symptoms. Example, you have got a hydrogen producing bacterial overgrowth. It activates mainly diarrheal related IBS. But if it is more of methane related bacterial overgrowth in the intestine, it causes constipation. Okay, and there is a probiotic called as Saccharomyces boulardii, which everybody is using as SBO, soil-based organism. Soil-based organism can reduce the diarrheal-based IBS type of cases because it reduces the expression of SCRTs. So for diarrheal dominated cases of IBS, we use more of SBO probiotic, but again you have the bacterial growth still there. So to eradicate that bacterial growth, we use certain herbal combination. So we have made a formulation called as SIBO care to reduce the diarrheal mediated SBO. So diarrheal mediated IBS. So we use a combination of SIBO care with SBO together with low carb diet, no sugar, everything to fix the IBS diarrhea. But if it is more of methane related, more of constipation related or post food poison, post infectious related IBS cases, we use a herb in Ayurveda called as Andrographis paniculator. This Andrographis paniculator is very effective in treatment of constipation. So when we use, even in post-infectious cases, when we use Andrographis paniculator, this particular herb, like when you give the patients maybe 30-40 days, even that chronic bloating which they develop from years together get treated, and we could stop Andrographis paniculator. Graphis paniculator. Paniculator. PANI. Paniculator. CULAT. Boulardii bacillus with Sibocare. We have a combination called as Sibocare. It's a the major content of Sibocare is an Ayurvedic remedy called as Bilva. That is done by SB, Boulardii. Yeah, Bilva is a type of a natural antibiotic. It clears that bacterial overgrowth which causes bloat. SCRT expression.
I'm sorry, can you repeat the last thing that you were talking about?
Graphis paniculator. It's an Ayurvedic herb, generally written in the traditional science to treat constipation. So later, that we could find out that the methane-related gas types of constipation, when we use this particular Andrographis paniculator herb, we are able to fix the constipation. SIBO, constipation mediated. When it is diarrheal dominated, it is a different herb called as Bilva. Aglomerulose, that's a herb. Bilva, it's called as Bilva in local language.
Is it a contraindication of using Saccharomyces boulardii?
When you use too much, it leads to constipation. So in cases of constipation-based boulardii, we don't use lots of constipation-based IBS. We don't use lots of boulardii. It's making them more constipated.
Saccharomyces is a fungus.
It's a good fungus, sir.
So it works against bacteria as well.
Yeah, so there are some types of bacteria are eliminated by using boulardii.
Saccharomyces pylori.
Yes. Even post food poison and all, when you give this for diarrhea cases, when you give boulardii for short time, it's completely clear.
Another thing is, a lot of people talk about colon hydrotherapy. Is there any scientific evidence of its use, or it is more of hype?
Yeah, no scientific evidences and colon hydrotherapy.
No evidence.
No evidences.
Do you have a protocol for what probiotic strains to give in SIBO, in constipation, in IBS?
So only in diarrheal dominated this SBO probiotic we could give. Constipation, we have seen bifidobacterium works, but it should be a case where you have got poor bifidobacterium in the colon. Then you give probiotic, it would get treated. If the constipation is due to lack of bile acid, that doesn't work. If the constipation is due to the parasite, it doesn't work. So that's what we for constipation, we have got 7 to 8 types of classification, and we have made the questionnaire also. Like example, parasite, eosinophil will be elevated, IG will be elevated, and we always ask whether parasite shows this typical symptom like anal itching. They always get the skin issues, skin rashes. They get insomnia. The night time they feel lots of thirst, dry throat, especially around 1 to 3 a.m. In that early morning time, they wake up with lots of dry throat. That's a parasite symptom. So we ask this in the questionnaire, look for eosinophil, everything, and conclude parasite. And when you give the deworming, constipation is treated. But if it is a bifidobacterial deficiency, then even if you give this, it's of no use. So that's why I told you we have made a classification to treat the diseases. It's not a single remedy which cures all psoriasis, right? Ayurveda has made 18 classifications for psoriasis. 18 classifications was there. So now we could make at least 6 to 7, by decoding that traditional science. We are trying to understand what herb in what types of cases, how we can differentiate what tests to be done in what types of psoriasis. We are slowly doing that particular pattern. But this is for sure, man. Bolradi reduces diarrhea. Bifidobacterium definitely helps in methane-based constipation cases. And Rotary, Lactobacillus rotary is also very effective in H. pylori. So there are certain cases where after giving Rotary, the H. pylori load has come. More than that, I don't know. I don't even think so in functional medicine it's been told a lot. I have not.
So these are the 3 most common probiotics.
Probiotics.
Saccharomyces boulardii,
Rotary, Bifido. Yes.
Do you use antibiotics in homeo or pure herbal?
Herbal form.
Powder.
Yes. Powder would be much more stronger, so you get better.
Proprietary name?
Yes, sir. Yes. So it's called as colon support. Colon support.
Ah, you have it here.
Yes, we have it.
So bifidobacterium is sporing probiotics.
No, sir. Bifidobacterium is not sporing.
Bifidobacterium.
Already bacillus is sporing, sir. Bifidobacterium is not sporing. I think so, I'm not sure. But
It's not. Bifido is not.
not sporing. Even by using andrography spaniculator, the typical that metrogel works in certain cases, like lots of foul smelling gases, we could get the same results by using andrography spaniculator in cases of that foul smelling flatulence. And post-infectious IBS also, that's the same thing which we could see in results by using andrographic spaniculator. And one more medicine which gave us more improvement to clear the post-infectious IBS was one is called as cyanara. It's artichoke. The raw tincture of artichoke along with ginger extract. So when you combine the cyanara with ginger extract, it was helping to treat the post-infectious IBS types of gas, bloating, irritated symptoms. So that is another thing that we generally apply. And there is
Which
one.
herb, sir?
Sorry, sir.
Which herb?
Cyanara, artichoke. So when we combine the cyanara with the gingiber extract, we could get the better results. Just with cyanara, it was not very much useful. Now one more cause is your DAO deficiency, where you have got too much of histamine secreted in the intestine due to deficiency of DAO in the gut. Okay. So and even these types of cases, DAO supplementation was the only the taught remedy. But when we treated the gut by using probiotic supplementation and the herbs, we could, patients was able to tolerate all the high histamine foods again. So, means we thought that when treating the gut could also sometimes reverse the DAO based deficiency cases, because this is not something genetically which you get, right? It's some due to the food poisoning or due to bad lifestyle, you inherit this DAO deficiency. So that is again another observation thing that sir has made, and we could help to fix few cases. So this is a complete line of treatment.
How deficiency test can be done?
This can be done, sir, but it's very costly.
Is the anti-vinculum antibody test available in India?
It's available, sir.
Oh.
Yeah, but again, because of the cost, we could not tell our patients to do that. But we just go with symptomatic treatment. So this is a complete treatment line that we are using for IBS. So SBO based probiotic we are using mainly to treat diarrheal dominated IBS. Sibocare is the herbal combination that we are using. So when it is H. pylori mediated cases, we use the probiotic formulation and our gastric support combo together to treat that. So when it is in small intestine mediated, we use small intestine IBS diarrheal mediated, we use SBO with Sibocare combination to treat that. And when it is more of constipation, methane based cases, we use again our colon care, which has got the andrographis paniculator as a major content. We use the colon care support with bifidobacterial combination to treat that. Some cases we also add the prebiotic fibers to help with the constipation. And only thing, it's like patients should not have the bloating. If they have severe bloating and you add prebiotic, they would bloat more if they have SIBO. So prebiotic is something that we add very cautious, but the only prebiotic fiber that we could find which does not cause lots of constipation was gum arabicum. That gum arabicum supplement. That was not causing severe constipation. So that severe bloating. So we add colon care support andrographis paniculator herb with probiotic bifidobacterium along with small doses of gum arabicum in order to help the constipation. So that's the another treatment plan that we was using. Constipation diarrheal mediated, constipation IBS constipation mediated, and post infectious IBS gas bloating cases we use the same herb like the andrographis paniculator. That itself was more than enough to clear the gas bloating. So this is some of our standard combination which is helping to treat the IBS, especially the diarrhea. That somewhat 100% we are able to get the result just by using SIBO and the SBO combination.
What is the zero grain? That means
So some
millets
cases,
or no millets, nothing millets.
no,
millets.
absolutely 0 grains for at least 2 to 3 weeks of time. So that we starve that complete overgrown bacteria there, everything gets cleansed out, and slowly the serotonin natural production gets reactivated. But that types of treatment we do only in inpatient hospitals.
So when initially you stop all grains, but in long term, do you start some grains off gluten or no?
No, off gluten, sir, but we introduce the other grains like small portions of rice or millets, ragi, we slowly tend to reintroduce.
And are pseudo cereals like amaranth etc. better than millets or they're same?
I think almost same results only, sir. But generally, since in our South Indian area, sir, we get mainly rice, ragi, these amaranths and all nobody uses. So I don't have much idea on that.
Would any of these help for inflammatory bowel disease as well?
So that's a totally different program. So it doesn't help. So it is stomach and small intestine part only I have tested. Large intestine, it's mainly with prebiotic treatments. Because ulcerative colitis, you have mainly short chain fatty acid deficiency there, and colonocytes are inflamed. So the major fuel for colonocytes is short chain fatty acids. That comes when you take prebiotics. But before that, you have to remove the infections or something if it is there in the system. So totally different area. I did not told you.
And do we have DAO enzyme available in India?
No, sir. But the natural content of DAO is present in chickpea. Chickpea. Chickpea, sir.
Chickpea.
Yes.
Chana.
Chickpea has the same DAO content. I forgot that.
Does it have DAO?
Yeah, but sir, I have tried given this tinctures of chickpea and all to the patient to replace the effect of DAO.
So antihistamine, it will work like antihistamine.
No, no, it's not. You have histamine intolerance because you don't have DAO in the gut, right?
Yeah.
So I thought like to supplement that chickpea it's something like DAO, but it was not giving result. But when we start treating the gut better, sir, then the patient could naturally tolerate again all the histamine rich foods. So that's what we have found. DAO supplementation we have even bought the supplement from abroad and all and given to the patient, but results was better when we completely detox the gut system. It was much better.
So DAO doesn't work.
I have used in few cases and did not give that great results. Even certain migraine, they told theoretically when you have DAO deficiency, you get migraine. So in those cases of also I have tried DAO and did not get very good results.
What is the STD?
No, that's a standard treatment protocol that we are using for IBS. So that's the small intestine and gut-based, stomach-based treatment plan that we are doing. Sir, another one of the strong area where we have very good success rate is skin disease like psoriasis, eczema, urticaria. So again, we connected with gut and treat the gut to cure the psoriasis. So this is the three types of major classification that we are doing. Like either we look whether it is gut mediated. So majority of case where total Ig when it is elevated, we could treat the gut and helps to help the psoriasis patient. So when it is Ig elevated, total Ig elevated cases, we start focusing on detoxifying the gut. One thing. When Ig is elevated, definitely respiratory structures also has to be treated, but majority of cases we could focus on gut detoxification, especially the small intestinal detoxification protocol that I told. Then we could help the psoriasis patient. If the total Ig is negative, then it's mainly by targeting the oxidative stress, especially which is originating from the liver. So there are certain psoriasis where Ayurveda doctors has told it is more of pitta origin. So if you see what is pitta, according to the Ayurveda, they focus mainly on the liver. So we start detoxifying the liver and then helps to get the psoriasis better if it is not Ig mediated. So these are the two types of classification that we have done based on observation. IgE, sir, IgE. So when it is gut mediated, so again like when it is gut mediated, again you have to differentiate whether it is stomach related or it is small intestine or it is large intestine. This is again something that you have to differentiate. But mainly the psoriasis results we started getting when we start focusing on treatment of the SIBO or the small intestine detoxification, and morely the small intestine was cleansed by using certain herbs. We could get better result in psoriasis. Okay, so you have to fix that Agni, digestive power as well. You have to detox the small intestine also in cases of Ig mediated psoriasis. So that's why dietary restriction is very important for at least 2 to 3 months of time in psoriasis. So when it is non-Ig mediated, we focus mainly on the oxidative stress originating from the liver. Okay. Even urticaria cases also, we get better results when we start treating the liver. So there is a herb called as Picorrhiza corolla. The Picorrhiza corolla is a NOX2 blocker, NADPH oxidase, NOX2 blocker. So Picorrhiza corolla is helping a lot in cases of urticaria. When it is
How do you treat the liver?
So that's what, sir. Herbs and even dietary protocol. We reduce the carbs for a little bit of time. That's the way we treat the liver. So Picorrhiza corolla is very effective in treating non-Ig mediated urticaria cases. And Ig mediated urticaria cases, we use more of herb called as Rubia cordifolia. It's called as Manjishta in Ayurveda. There are lots of standard drugs used in Ayurveda with Manjishta which helps to treat the Ig mediated psoriasis. So Rubia cordifolia blocks IL-4, interleukin 4. So when you have got too much of interleukin 4 secreted, it triggers your Ig. Then you have got that Th2 hyperactivity and Th2 hyperactivity and form too much of Ig antibodies. So Rubia cordifolia helps to block IL-4 and treat Ig-mediated skin disease like even psoriasis, eczema, plus urticaria types of cases. When it is non-Ig-mediated cases, we use mainly the herb called as Picoryza purora. It's called as Kudki in Ayurveda. So that basically helps to clean the liver. Ayurvedic term, they tell it reduces the pitta, it reduces the body temperature. Urticaria patients always tells that it's my body is always heat, and whenever I am exposed to sunlight or when I eat food which gives me too much of heat in the body, it trigger my urticaria. So there they have written the treatment to cool down the body, and Picoryza is one of the herbs that they use to cool the body down. But they add little bit of sandalwood also clubbed with Picoryza purora. So there is a standard medicine in Ayurveda, by clubbing these two herbal medications, which reduces the body heat and helps to treat the urticaria types of cases. And third is vitamin D, but again that is very commonly used in psoriasis. So this is what we have. We focus on the treatment of psoriasis. We look for the presence of infection, especially the gut infection like staph. We look for the history of lots of boils, strep infection, repeated throat issues. We look for the fungal infection. So whether the patient has got white coated tongue or got lots of dandruff issues, etc. So basic thing, we look for the presence of infection and treat the gut infection. And to reduce the scaling excess, which is due to the high IL-17 antibody, high IL-17 cytokine, we use aloe vera. So aloe vera is something which is very effective to block the excess IL-17. So we use aloe vera in the diet and aloe vera in the dried powder form to our psoriasis patients so that the scaling reduces. Even there are certain oil we use in Ayurveda and naturopathy which you can topically put it on the skin, which reduces the that thick scaling and the plaque thickness. And also we look for the dryness and different. It's called as Dantakala. I have mentioned in the next slide. It's again an Ayurvedic herb. So because our most of the treatment line we have made from Ayurveda and the traditional naturopathy approach. And also we look for the different reasons of dryness. So similarly, like how we have made this 5 points for looking into the treatment of psoriasis, we have made disease questionnaire for majority of the diseases. Like even for dandruff, one cause for dandruff is again bad bile secretion from the liver. So when we give the herbs to stimulate the digestion through the liver, the dandruff reduces. So you have a typical type of questionnaire to ask whether it is, to understand whether it is liver mediated, and you give that particular herbs. Sometimes it is the fungal overgrowth in the candida or fungal overgrowth in the intestine which can cause seborrheic dermatitis or dandruff. So we again patients would tell they will have white coated tongue, and they would also tell that whenever I eat curd or when I eat idli dosha based fermented foods, my symptoms flare, which is something strongly correlated to the gut fungus. So we stop those types of foods and we treat the gut fungus by using a herb called as Cassia fistula. It's an Ayurvedic herb that we use. So we cleanse the gut by using Cassia fistula and reduces the dandruff, seborrheic dermatitis. Even certain types of candida overgrown mediated psoriasis we could treat by using Cassia fistula and Cassia types of herbs. So, sorry?
What's the other name for this one?
It has got a yellow flower, and the bark is basically used for treatment of psoriasis. And for nail fungus, what they do, they just take the bark, they just crush the bark and put it over the toenails, and within a month of time or something, the complete toenails get cleared up.
So they say that dandruff, in dandruff you have the fungus of the scalp also.
Scalp and even the gut also.
So if the herb has the same effect in the gut and on the
When it is
scalp,
eradicated from the gut, yes, the inflammation reduces from the scalp. And you can topically put some herbs also. But major cases it starts from your gut rather than the topical fungal. So for dandruff also we make that fungal thing, we try to target the liver, and few cases just topical application would be better. But 90% it's gut and liver. And also third thing, we look for all the possible reasons of dryness. Like example, near to menopause, you have got poor hormones like your estrogen, progesterone drops, and you tend to develop lots of skin dryness, which could become a cause for psoriasis or atopic, eczema types of cases. So we look for all the possible causes of the dryness. If you have gluten intolerance, like if you have celiac disease, so you develop antibody against TTG. You have trans tissue glutamate. So even your skin layers have got TTG. So even that get attacked and you develop severe skin dryness, which can be potential, which can trigger the dysbiosis in skin flora and cause psoriasis. So you have to actually treat skin dryness also in certain cases in order to help the psoriasis. So it's 60% it is from the gut, and sometimes it is just topical local reasons also you have to target. So that's what we look for, the major causes for the skin dryness, and try to target that particular area. So, and these are the remedies that generally we are using. So this is our major psoriasis herbal formulation that we are using, called as Histagot. It has got Rubia cordifolia as a major content, and neem also, in order to reduce the IL-4 and reduce Ig formation. Very effective to treat the full body psoriasis. So we look for high Ig levels and put the patient Histagot. And some cases even the candida overgrowth is also a strong cause for psoriasis. So to treat the candida overgrowth, we add SBO supplementation. Some cases we have, so when it is more of fungal related, when the patient says like when I have got to go with the curd, or when they come with the stool test where the candida is positive, we add our herbal remedy called as Sifocare. So this has got all the variety of cassia. So it's based on the questionnaire or Ig testing. These things we differentiate the case and start applying certain herbs. So I'll just show you some cases. So these are certain cases that we have treated by using the same system. Yeah. And this result we get just with 40 to 50 days of time. That was enough to get this.
This was which one?
IG mediated. So I have used Histagot and SBO probiotic and a few dietary restrictions. Yeah. So we are trying to make more classifications and more questionnaire in order to apply these herbs. So that's the cases that we are in, and this is the complete treatment protocol that we are using for the psoriasis trait. So it's mainly Ig mediated cases that we have found maximum, so where we apply our Histagot as the primary remedy. If it is more of fungal mediated, we go for our Sifocare, which is cassia fistula, as the main remedy. And SBO probiotic if it is fungal mediated psoriasis. And of course, like vitamin D, everything we would club it together, but Ig, non-Ig classification is what we basically do, and try to put the herbs. But again, there will be my variations based on the patient case history. So according to the case histories, we find that herbs, what types of questions has to be asked to this particular patient. So we are not able to make a common herbal remedy for this. We are making maximum questionnaire and try to fit the patient to this classification. So far we could make more than 5 to 6 classification on psoriasis according to the traditional Ayurvedic, that literature. And like lots of cases we start them with purgation. That is one thing mainly that we do. We just cleanse the gut by using certain types of herbs. main thing that we use is castor oil purgation. But again, we add little bit of herbal remedies also to the castor oil based on the patient nature. If the Ig is high, we would give them castor oil along with the neem together to clear the gut. If Ig is normal, we would add another Ayurvedic herb called as avipatti. There is a powder you get it in market called as avipatti churna. So you just ask them to take 20 gram of avipatti in empty stomach, and they get very good cleansing. And avipatti is written even to treat fatty liver in Ayurveda. So it has got a very good bile cleansing effect also. So
What is what?
avipatti.
Avipatti.
Avipatti. AVIPATH.
Treat constipation also.
Yeah, it's a mild purgating medicine. So daily basis, you just ask them to take 5 gram in 1 glass of hot water in the night. 20 is for purgation. It's strong dose. So when you are giving it in a daily basis, you go for 5 gram.
Don't you have senna?
No sir, not senna. So this herb even has property to clean the liver, reduce inflammation. Senna would work just like a purgation.
Do you advocate Virechana for all patients?
No sir. No. It's based on the patient capacity, what symptoms the patient has that time. Even before Virechana, patient should have good digestion capacity, otherwise you should not be purgating according to Ayurveda. It causes more damage. So we have to do lots of assessment before you do the purgation. But if the patient is healthy and all, and if the Ig is elevated, immediately we start with the castor oil neem combo. It's giving very good.
You mentioned about patients having liver issues. Now, when you're treating the liver, you should treat the gut first, followed by the liver.
Yes. So sir, it's an integrated approach. So it can be clubbed together. Even when we treat the liver, same thing will be benefiting to the gut also, even vice versa. But certain herbal selection would be very important to focus more on herb, liver or gut. Only that. So that's about that. This is a disease that I am targeted to.
Very good. Thank you.
Thank you.
It's more of observational things that Dr. Praveen has taken from the Ayurvedic and traditional science. So, any questions? Dandapala. DANDAPALA.
What is that?
So it reduces scaling, it reduces the thickness.
It's a topical.
It's a topical.
What is the spelling?
DANDAPALA.
Dandapala.
Yeah. PALA. So we make this oil in Kerala, sir, in very traditional pattern.
For psoriasis.
Yes. And there are people who just apply that for 6 to 7 months and they get completely clear.
Do you combine allopathic medicines in your treatment, or you are just totally into herbal treatment?
No, sir. We have certain friends, means allopaths, they would refer to us. So along with referral, we would add the herbs also in order to speed up this.
For parasites, what do you give? Something like wormwood complex or?
No, sir. We are using traditional Ayurvedic remedy for parasite. So there is a herb called as Vidanga. That's giving very good result for DO.
Do you do anything for biofilm?
So andrographis is that we are now we are using for the biofilm. Andrographis paniculator, the same remedy that I told for constipation. Yeah, that is a good biofilm breaker as well.
What is it sold as in the market?
So you have that herb Himalaya. There are so many companies who just do that single herbal formulation, sir. That's Andrographis paniculator. But we have made a brand called as Colon Care Support, which we have here.
Can you give a little overview of your supplements?
That's Sanjay, Dr. Sanjay sir.
So there are a lot of clinics that are running with you in the south. I was listening to the online session once. So how are they running? How you monitor them or how they work with you?
Sir, usually people comes to our clinic, they get trained with us to do the treatments in Dissolve protocol. They do their own thing.
Besides this, are you giving them like Panchkarma treatment also? Or no?
We are giving Panchakarma treatment, sir, but in inpatient basis. So we have IP hospitals also in Kerala and Karnataka.
So you specialize on gut issues?
Yes.
Gut and psoriasis?
Yes. But when we do Panchakarma and also we make sure that we make our own medications. Because Ayurveda medicine, it has to be prepared properly, sir. Otherwise it's very toxic.
Yeah, and sometimes there are heavy metals.
Heavy metals is there, sir.
What all that-
Yes. So the purification is very important. So we don't compromise on purification. So we cannot do it in a bulk, no, sir, when we do this. So we do it in inpatient basis, very properly. Otherwise, like even that there are lots of medicines, bottled medicines available, sir, like cortical and all. When you use that for 6 months and all, you start getting other issues on that. But if it is really properly homemade, purified and made, you get results in a month and you can stop the medicine. You don't need to use medicine continuously. You just make basic dietary changes. That's it.
But they say that in Ayurveda you need to clean your gut, you need to get detox, and then so this treatment protocol is sufficient enough. You don't need to detox ourselves.
You need to detox. There are different types of detoxification that you have to do.
So for say for example, I have a patient who has psoriasis. So first she had to go all the detox procedures.
Yes.
Whatever detox procedures I have in my setup, and then going ahead we can sustain the condition or improve the condition with the treatment protocol.
Yes, yes. But
Or along with the detox I can introduce this treatment protocol.
see, usually we do after detoxification we do the medication. That is one line that we do. But everybody do not have time to come and get admitted for 30-40 days. So we just start with the medicines and diet restrictions. That is also giving good results. Only thing is you just need to continue a good diet at least for 3 to 6 months. That gives you the same results of detoxification. Yes, I think I'll call Sanjay, Dr. Sanjay.
Come. Dr.Praveen.
So Dr. Alok,
Yes, sir.
basically all the herbs and all the treatment protocols I talked about have been converted into products, and those products are all, as I said, below $10. The price is the MRP, the retail price is below $10. So we try to keep the price really low. So starting from say 250 rupees for box of insulin and to 750 rupees. That is our maximum price. The idea is to we are doing all more than 250 consults a day in less than 500 rupees, 200 rupees consult, some even free. and the cost of entire treatment, let's say for the whole month, will be 1,500 rupees or 2,000. So the idea is to take functional medicine to the masses and to take it to the grassroots level.
And regarding dietary protocol, maybe after 2 months I can arrange a cooking demonstration because it's very difficult to. Yeah, I told that will help you to understand the meal plan, madam. Okay. So I'm expert in cooking. Like I cook all my food for myself. So we develop hundreds of salads and soups and different natural recipes, consistent with the theory what I you know.
So the basic thing is that in 200 patients a day, 6,000 a month, over 10 years, you can multiply the number, lakhs of it. That's what is done.
So our hospital is occupied like around 200 inpatient and 300 OP every day. So 500 patients.
The 200 rupee consultations, they are doing a turnover of 25 crores.
Numbers minus.
I'm just trying to say that if you treat so many people in a day, then you know the.
And for cardiovascular patients, sir, we found a very good protocol to reduce the high sensitivity CRP. And we found 100% success rate by choline, phosphatidylcholine choline. Phosphatidylcholine choline and lycopene, it's a a very good combination to reduce high sensitivity CRP. Choline, phosphatidylcholine choline. And serine is different. Choline, this is 100% success rate from 12 to 2, 12 to 1, just in 1 month.
You have that in the.
Yeah, the products are displayed outside.
And the choline also can reduce first grade fatty liver without dieting. Choline.
That is made to do any
yeah, phosphatidylcholine. Choline also a good molecule to target the visceral fat.
Yeah,
So I spoke about the 4 molecule visceral fat herbs, short chain fatty acids, and 80% fat. That's the part of it.
Yeah, I saw that. I gave a phosphatidylcholine injectable,
Okay.
alpha lipoic acid. We got very good results in fatty liver.
Fatty liver, that's right. No, that's also one I forgot to mention. So, this insulin resistance protocol,
Yeah.
I shared to everyone.
Yeah.
So it's easy to.
So the recordings I'll share with everybody in case you missed some part of it. I'll share the recording.
I will see one more. I forgot to mention one more point. I was diabetic when I turned 26 years, and my father, grandma 48 years, she passed from diabetic complication, and entire family inherited diabetes, a premature onset of diabetes around 20 to 25, and lifespan never goes beyond 50. I'm 47 without diabetes. So same principle helped me to come out from the diabetes.
Are you off greens?
Pardon?
Do you take
No,
grains?
I take small quantity of grains because I keep travels. I take small quantity of grains, but my father has a hotelier. He had 5 meals of grains. So I have a 2 meals of grain. That's all different.
You have a protocol, dietary protocol for insulin resistance.
Yeah, same protocol, sir. That's what we know. So we have a 2 protocol. One is strict version, 80% fat and 15%. Then moderate version, 45, 45, 10 or 60, 30, 10. 60.
What is atta you recommend?
Which one?
What is the atta?
That's what, sir. It's
She is the queen of attas.
So
She makes the best non.
the course size is important, sir. Course size is
And the
important.
thing,
Yes. So she is
The coconut almond and.
No, so what they do is they do 50% jowar, 25% almond flour, 25% flaxseed meal.
Okay, that reduces the glycemic.
Yeah, considerably.
And because the flaxseed is a source of soluble
She
fat.
is selling
That's another
everywhere,
way.
all over India. She's made a
No, flaxseed.
my patients. Factory learning. And they don't allow any included beds in the factory. Even the staff doesn't touch anything. Right? Yes, Sameer. Can we, Dr. Aldo, can we take a group picture? Group photo. One minute, you can class.
Please join for the picture.
Who's taking the photo?
Dr. Could you please join the picture?
He will take. Yeah.
Yes, some people have to come in front.
Short, medium, large. Short, medium, large.
Medium chain, short chain, long chain.
Very dangerous.
Don't worry.
Chair only the speaker is
You are the nucleus. You are all mitochondria.
everybody is coming.
Can you table water?
Are you on this student? Yesterday?
Just
On the picture. You getting photos?
Chal baby.
Okay, please.
Smile. One more. Is my hair so thank you.
Thank you.
Who's holding?
One pic with that.
No, very good.
Just okay, everyone, yes.
Paneer में से ये होता है. Cheese and paneer दोनों से ये होता है. Yeah.
Yeah, a round of applause for Sanjay.